and call this meeting to order with Mr. Reedy. If you're willing and able, please send prayer and pledge, please.
Lord, we thank you for this morning. Thank you for the brothers to be healthy enough to get here. We just thank you for all of those who have come out to work on this budget. Those that are being used as resources for us to give us ideas of what we need to do. Lord, we thank you for a productive day as of today. And we ask you for one day. We ask you for continue together. Thank you. It's kind of hold down budget. Make you always keep it now. Just for the present, but for the future. Not future. Kind of prosper and be a good residence for those in the future. We just ask you to bless all our organizations that are part of this learning process. We find them to do so with all heart.
Amen. Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We'd like to approve our minutes from the budget committee meeting that occurred on May 8th. I haven't reviewed the minutes when we started back on Wednesday, but I've had a chance to look at them. Has everybody had a chance to look at the minutes and see if there are any edits to be made? And are there any motions? Got a motion from Ms. Goolsby to approve the minutes from May 8th. Second by Mr. Jones. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right. We have just a few departments left today. I really do commend everyone for their hard work so far in the first 2 days. Now, the county commission is a section in our 101 budget. I thought since there had been some talk about looking at how that line item is essentially doubled, we can start there and see if there's $60,000 of cuts to be made to close the gap even further. Starting today, based on past 2 days, the gap is now $110,572.
And that should be a rear new package that you receive for County Fund 101. Everybody should have a copy of that. That's what that's trying to pass out to everybody, so everybody should have a new copy of the 101 county share budget.
And I'll just say, we'll talk about commissioner pay, see if there's any changes to be made there. We'll go to fire and rescue, soil conservation, and dead animal pickup has been added as its own topic because we talked about it yesterday. There was some question about the program itself, whether we needed to keep that line item. I think the takeaway is we do. And we can get into that, but we have a representative from South Central Human Resource Agency to shed a little more light on that program and the status. We'll get through financial management, general sessions, any remaining unapproved budgets. And then we'll talk about what the deficit is and the options we have to close that before we conclude. Mr. Reedy, did you have something?
Yes, I think we've got 3 people here representing 3 different organizations. Talk that later. Not like for committee consider moving that.
Happy to do that. Any objection to taking up dead animal pickup first? need to know before we either approve or disapprove. Ms. Flowers, you got.
Sure, thank you. Scott Van, the farm bureau, should be here shortly to for additional questions after we discuss this, but, the development district, we have been getting funding, from the counties and from another source. The other source, based on the conflict of office review, I imagine, has to stop being contributed to our own district. So unfortunately, we have the increase and we also are using a funding source for that program. So the development district said they were out. We have tried to come up with a solution. TA, Farm Bureau, Extension, South Central Human Resource Agency are really committed to keep this program going for our district. So what we thought we would do is keep all the line items from the counties, obviously, we'd love to keep that. The increase will be great. A lot of the counties have committed to the increase already because they see the value in the program. But to cover the rest of the cost of the funding that we're losing, we were going to charge, or we're planning on charging a fee to the producer as well. It would be a nominal fee. We don't know what that is until we know what, the counties are approving, and kind of what TDA is able to put in to help us get, this transition. But we were thinking somewhere between $25 and $50. Our fund balance is very small compared to the development district. We're just the district agency. We do not have the pockets they have, so it is a higher risk for us. And so we were gonna err on the higher side of that fee structure to begin, and then see where we are with the numbers of calls that we get, and kind of what funding we can get, or some competitive grants we would be attempting, to apply for as well. So that's kind of where we are. So does anybody have questions about the value of the program and why we keep it in this county?
Mr. Wong.
So 5 years ago, it was roughly $75 per animal was the cost of the smoke panels adjusted. We discussed this 7 years ago, and I recommended then that we allow the first 3 to 5 animals at no cost. And that covers 95% of the producers in our county. We all considered maybe making allowance for the first 3 animals.
We have not considered that just because there is going to be a fee at a landfill. So the county is essentially covered is all around the ground's contract price, which is set price. And then we have, approximately $300,000 over that we, way tickets at the landfill. And that is what we have to cover. So that is per carcass. So we would have to cover that cost somehow, if that makes sense.
I haven't looked at the numbers in years, but you have just a small amount of large users that have used the majority of this program. Why I would like to see the first 3 to 5 animals at no charge. The number a lot better now. 3 to 5 animals covers most farmers in our county.
It's not-
Just something to consider.
I understand what you're saying. I'm one of those. We use that tree regularly on our farm because we have dairy cattle, dogs and they're looking for a reason to that. So we have to utilize that service.
Steve Melville, yeah.
Maybe some other questions.
Well, I can give you the 2025 statistics about how many's picked up county producers. So 2025, 195 different producers use the program. That was a total of 1,350 animals picked up. Now they made 721 trips to pick up animals in Johnson County. And so, there were some larger farmers that, some large farmers did use quite a few, but still 195 different entities used the service. So that averages about 4 animals per farm.
So that's about $65 per animal.
Yeah, so I had a question yesterday about alternatives if we don't continue this program. First of all, the reason we need all the counties to buy in is because we got a volume discount with all around the other. If the counties individually contracted with them, the price would be way, way higher than what we're getting as a district. And then also the alternative, if we don't continue this program, if we don't all buy it and continue this the way that it's set up now, and what we've seen in the past, it becomes a public health hazard. So typically, the alternatives would be to bury that livestock, haul it off on your own, and pay for the hauling, and take it yourself, all around underground, and pay a significantly higher price for his services. Or what most happens most of the time is we see with the Amish and some producer now, which is typically, unlawful, is to just put the cows out in a gully, and then they wash, they get in our creeks, they bother the neighbors, they bother, tourists, they come in to kayak and things like that, and then also, I mean, it's landowner protections, because then black vultures come in, they're trying to put those cows, and they bother your cows, the neighbors' cows, and then you have a lot of loss associated with that as well. So ultimately, that's what we've seen happen in the past with Giles County, and this program has been kept with budget. Also, those landowners are funding the county, and this is a very important program to those people, so it's a very, very small line item relatively, that is really paying back the producers that are paying all the taxes, since we don't have the bill tax, those producers are paying the land taxes in the county, that's not the county.
What other questions do we have?
We're pages on. What page?
Yesterday, it was on page 21. I assume
It still is.
it still is. All right. And as you'll see, we allocated the same amount the past 2 years, 3 years, 83,982. So this current deficit is based on that number. What we're hearing is that we should at least budget that number. Mr. Jones?
Do we need a motion to approve?
Let's go ahead, yeah, and take this item. Motion by Mr. Jones, second by Mrs. Jones. Open it up for discussion. I just thought on our call yesterday, I thought I heard you say there were 9,000 carcasses in our district last year, but that doesn't mean Giles County.
Yeah,
I just heard 1,300 in Giles.
yeah, Rutherford County is not in our district, they're also part of this, and they really help offset the cost for our local counties as well. And the way that came about is the landfill we used to get to, was in Las Casas, the one out there, now we go to the one in Marshall County, so it's cheaper because it's closer, to haul them, but they do also contribute and offset the cost of the program in Rutherford County.
Mr. Reed?
Yeah, I wasn't aware that Cedar Lane is taking cards.
That's where we're, well, they're taking them now. The good news also, which this is just in the future, we are talking to some people who want to utilize carcasses for research or for composting. And then it would be free and wouldn't have the weighting cost anymore, so then it could reduce that producer cost or even the burden on the counties if that were the case. But to overall operate this program for a year is gonna cost over $1 billion for our agency. And we don't have this fund balance that the development district has, so that's the risk for us. But we just want to make sure that we have all the counties on board at least to cover that standard cost, and the producers can help offset the cost of the way tickets. If we get more, more calls, then more producers are paying for the way tickets, and that covers itself. If we get fewer producers are paying, we got less cost, so that covers itself as well as kind of the structure of the company.
Did I understand, Morgan, that, the state picked up a portion of this in the past and have now removed?
That is correct. So they were spending some unbudgeted dollars on the program, and I don't believe that that was appropriate to continue. They're very supportive and want to partner with us, and they are still funding some, but very considerably less than they're facing that. So that's why I said I believe it was their comptroller's office, because it wasn't budgeted, it wasn't going statewide, it was just going to the development district. And so I think it was determined that that had to be phased out.
Do we need to address that with our representatives?
No, it was through the Department of Agriculture, and they have tried to keep this a free program, and that's what they were doing. It was kind of like gifting us some, like, I guess, discretionary money for a long time. They're just not able to do that anymore. So they're the ones trying to partner us to reduce that way ticket cost, and help us with some competitive grant funding. And that's a more appropriate way to help out. So we can't count on that grant funding, but like there's some agricultural grants I've been successful in applying for my farm, so I'll apply for this program as well. But they are competitive, so it's not guaranteed funding.
This may be a silly question. If you look at the past 5 years or 10 years, looking at the high level data, is the number of pickups roughly the same year to year, or can it fluctuate? Given,
It can fluctuate some, so there was a huge increase during COVID. And I don't know if that was people not getting supply, there are a lot of theories, I think Scott's looked into that a whole lot. And then it's continually kind of reduced a little bit every year. The good thing about now that the program is changing, we're gonna have to put out a lot of information, and part of that is marketing. You know, because there are a lot of people that don't even know this program exists, so like veterinary clinics, you know, they pass that on to the cost of producer as well, so it's a good thing to them to utilize. They have a lot of loss, and some of the bigger producers, even some smaller producers that have never even heard of this program. We're gonna work with the extension to get that information out to everybody that we can, to make sure they know this program is available and take advantage of it. And so that should, you know, increase the numbers again, especially when we build it out, but I'm trying to build here today about the alternatives and what some of the issues maybe with that, and with fuel costs right now, I feel like if it was a $50 fee, like it would cost me more than $50 to haul it down to the landfill, so. Or dig a hole, you know, it's expensive.
we had Dr. Lathrop, then Mr. Barnacle, then Mr. Jones.
I'm looking at, line item 58,400-510. This is trustee commissions, and, for commission is 290,000. Can you explain what, please?
That may not be related to what.
It's not. That's just the place where the file is. It doesn't really have a good heading, so we put it in other. Because nobody really ever wanted to claim it in our budget, so it's another.
Mr. Barnacle.
I just wanted to say, you know, I sort of agree with David on the 3 to 5 for farmers getting picked up. I think that was covered. You know, I run about 110 mom cows. And, you know, I do know there's feedlots, dairies, you all, very few in the county. And I was there for a long time, and I know what happens. You said it a while ago, but whether it be Amish or whether it be us or whatever, a lot of times it's these cattle drug into ditches and creeks, or that's where they end up. It can be a mess. I've been there. So, but I do think David is onto something, that 3 to 5 head per producer, is a good idea, in my opinion, for them to get that free, because I feel like we've got some feedlot guys, and I know a bunch of them, and they use that facility, they use that more than anything.
Sure.
So, you know, I feel like, you know, in our, the way it is, you know, if you run 100 cows and you use them 2 or 3 times a year, and that guy's got a lot more than that, and feeding out 1,000 head a year, and it's using it 20 times, you know, it's, to me, that's a little bit unfair, because the guy that's out here, the mom and pop guy that's running 25 and 30 head is taking care of the big guys.
Well, then there's going to be $100 and this would be $1,000 too, right? Because it's not free, like, SCHRA can't pay that way to it.
Right.
Do you understand? So that's the thing, it's gotta come from somewhere, and that losing that additional funding, that's not the only problem. You know, in Giles County, if it's only 4 cows per, you know, farm, then they're paying $50 instead of 200, and I would be about $50 to come from out of all of us, if you don't have that fund balance, so lose money, plus the comptroller's office won't let us lose money on programs. They
But
don't spend anything.
I understand that, but the problem that I got is it goes back to the little guy taking care of the big guy. In some ways, you know, that's you know, this guy's feeding out 1,000 head, this guy's feeding out 20 or feeding 20 or whatever, you know, and he has 1 a year, and this guy has 20 a year, you know, that's his prerogative to be feeding 1,000 or
Right, and this cost is higher.
it all is, but it's just a thought.
I understand, and I get the sentiment, and I'm, you know, we get it for free, you know, but At the same time, there is the cost of third party, because, there's not any extra money right now like there has been in the past.
Mr. Reedy and Mr. Wamble and then Mr. Jones.
Yes, I'd like to ask, agree. Yes, thank you. I'd like to ask Rick to explain why some, the cattle system in this county, why some producers have enormous numbers.
It's just a business cost,
So, a lot of those, and I'm not disagreeing with you, Gene, I think you're right, it would be nice to have some for free. A lot of those large producers though are going to the local sale market, buying those cattle at the smaller producers. And so without them being able to be as competitive in the market, it would actually reduce the cost of the smaller producers for getting their animals. And so they're gonna lose money on their, they're gonna pay for the animal. They're gonna receive less for the animal itself, because if the backgrounder, the stock producer knows that he's gonna have to incur such a large cost for the animal, he's not gonna be able to pay as much as the sale volume for the smaller producers have. So I think the smaller producer is gonna get, it's gonna cost them money one way or another, either on the initial purchase price for that animal or to bury that animal. I think, I have to look at the numbers closely and kind of evaluate that. But I think it would end up costing the smaller producer more money than that feedlot guy, that backgrounder has to budget for extreme additional costs of that. Than it would be for that small producer to pay that $25 to $50.
It's the risk.
Because those larger producers, they basically operate on margins. If they know that their margins are gonna decrease in another way, then they're willing to pay less. So I think just from a market standpoint, it would be a bad idea to pass that on up the chain, because your smaller producers are going to receive less money. So,
Mr. Jones, then Mr. Wamble. I'm sorry, I had Mr. Jones.
The only thing I want to do is I want to clarify my motion.
Okay.
And it is only for line item 58-312. That's all of these others so far. I want to make sure it's just 312.
Yes, sir. Mr. Wamble.
I support this program wholeheartedly. Now, I want you to find a way to keep it going. The average herd in Giles County used to be around 30. Is that correct? Anybody running 30 cows is also working full-time jobs somewhere else, because you can't live on 30 package taxes to pay your bills. So that's where my mindset was going with those. The majority of our users have 30 cattle. It's the average size. These are people that are working full-time jobs, running cattle, have extra, make a little extra income. Those are the people that might need help with this, but whatever you have to do to keep this program going, obviously awesome.
Yeah, some of us milk town, look at the cheese and all milk and grow products, of course. These things.
Beth, did you have something?
I just like to speak as a town producer, and this program is so important, and I do appreciate, the discussion this morning. But also, as a town producer, if we have to start paying for them, I think most producers will be in favor of that. We just don't want to see the service removed. And I think that's been the big contingency issue. We very seldom might use the service, but I definitely want to see, do not want to see it removed. If we have to pay whatever it is, we'll be able to do that.
Yeah, so that's my position as well. It's worth $50 for my time to not have to dig or haul or whatever.
We are going to continue the conversation. We have a lot of people in line. May spend the first hour on this. Mr. Adams, then Mr. Jones, then Mr. Kemp.
I just want to say, I support this thing. I don't use it too often. I've had several people call me. One morning I was fixing to leave, go to Florida to that. Phone call, lady, she would not give her name. She won't know about a dead cow in her neighborhood. Her call, she couldn't know her drive. She had to smell it. This was right after the leaf industry. I know what she's talking about. Some people, 1,500 pound cow.
Mr. Jones, then Mrs. Jones.
Bad shape.
Yeah, I'm just wondering, start charging less money, come back to the general fund years and
That will just cover the way to the costs. Like that will go into our fund balance, it will just cover the cost of the program. We're not profit, so maybe anything off that. We may have some very minor administration, like if we have to do billings, reconciliations and things like that, maybe we'll have to manage the budget that we get for the program and pay all our underground field fund costs for that program. But other than that, we can have agency costs associated with it. And that will be district wide. It's not just in Dallas County. We'll make that clear to everybody participating in the program. The costs will have to pay the fee in the district fund for county.
Like not. My understanding would be you all would be administering this already, so the dollars.
Yes.
So the county would not be collecting the fee, we would just be making a contribution to South Central of this program.
Yes, that's correct. We'll do the administration. I think all the rest of it now, and the development district, we're fielding calls, and we would set up a system to bill those providers, or those producers. So, yeah, the county would just be contributing that line item to like our budget.
Mrs. Jones.
I don't have capital. But I understand the need for the program. And, anything that you can do to keep those black buzzards from increasing, I'd be happy for you to do it. I know, you're a hazard if you're driving down the road. Sometimes I took out my car near one time. I mean, they're very aggressive. I hate the things. But, I also have seen a dead cow in Big Dry Creek Road back when we lived out that way. And it's an ugly sight. And my children had been wading into the creek downstream, and it was a, kind of nasty to think about. But appreciate what y'all do.
It does affect everyone. Not just producers. So thank you for telling that. That's absolutely true.
Richard, did you have something?
Just want to ask a question, is there any legal reason, the property entity could, turn the process into a,
Yes, you were speaking on that yesterday. You're talking with Tyson and similar companies that may be able to do something with the bylaw.
Yes, so, like EPA notwithstanding, there are some opportunities for that. So there is some research being done at ET on that. I think Tyson potentially may be looking at something, some kind of composting program. So we are in talks with the Department of Agriculture about how to do that. And that's what I was saying, if we're able to do that and they don't charge a way to get fee for those carcasses, that we can deliver them somewhere for free, that will reduce a lot of the cost of the program and then a lot of the cost of the producer as well. But that'll be like kind of the build up sliding scale. I don't know if they're not able to take 9,000 carcasses this coming year. But as we can get into that, we can reduce those costs over time. So I don't know if there's a legal reason not to do that. We're exploring that right now.
Ms. Goolsby, great question. Ms. Goolsby, then Jean again.
Okay, speaking as a non, totally city person, but I'm a real estate agent. And if this program keeps the dead animals off the side of the road and not showing property, it is a win-win for Giles County. Because even though we might not think that's important, I've lost sales for what a neighbor has in their yard. Not the house we were going to look at, but what a neighbor has, or what they see when they're driving up to the house. So if somebody's yard's not covered, so there's a dead animal, because there was a dead cow, and I know it was a newly dead cow. And I tried to explain it was gonna get picked up real quick, but that still had that person saying, I know that I want to be around, well, I can't fix that. So this is a big win.
Yes, typically the vendor has a 3-day at the maximum window that goes in. So
But if you're like a non-farm, like I said, you don't understand that. You're a city folk,
right.
you're now wanting to be a farmer.
Yeah.
So I just think it's a win-win for Giles County.
Thank you, Jean.
I just wanted to say, I'm not against this at all. I just thought that how it weighed out. I will disagree with Scott here. We got You know, I calve all my cows at one time, and my calves leaves this county. And they go, you know, about everything I sell is bluegrass. And there's thousands of feeder calves just leaving this county and going to other places. So, that, I sort of have, a reason, buy into that totally. But bottom line, I don't want to see this stop at all. I mean, I want to, you know, we really need to get this thing passed one way or another.
I'm not hearing any opposition to passing at the motion. Miss Valentine.
I just want to say I've been here 38 years, didn't know this existed. I've had livestock, it's never been great. So we need to get the word out there, like you said.
Yeah.
I have no idea what's.
We'll definitely be marketing it, yes.
Yes, sir.
I'm Scott Van, by the way. I work for Tennessee Farm Bureau, and for some strange reason, I ended up the spearhead of this whole venture. So I apologize, y'all are having to argue about this, but I can't just not sit here and not say something. When this was handed to me, it was not gonna exist anymore. It was done. I just want y'all to understand that this service was over whenever I took over, trying to help get this accomplished. We've looked at every possible avenue on how to make this work for everybody. And the only way this is gonna work is if SCHRA takes it over and there's a fee implemented. We've looked at every option, I promise you. We've tried everything. This is just to get us a year to figure it all out. Once Morgan and her team has a year to get all of this figured out, how the collection's gonna go, how much revenue they can generate, how much expense is gonna be incurred with that, she and her team has freedom to lower the price or however they want to do it. If they want to host a big fundraising event, funds the whole thing, the whole year, that's up to them. But our backs are against the wall, you know, and we've got, for those of you that don't know, especially those that may not be agriculturally minded individuals in this room, over a quarter of the state's cattle herd is in this district alone. Just this district. That's 28% of the cattle in this state are in 13 counties. Okay, so it's a large number. Giles County, I believe, is in the top 5 cattle producing counties in the state of Tennessee. They're third. Behind,
Festival.
yeah, behind Lincoln County and Greene County, which is upper East Tennessee. So it's a very important, crucial program. And I want to reiterate that, you know, they're not against, nobody else is against looking at this down the road and trying to find other solutions to help keep it viable and make it more cost effective for everybody. I just thought that this type of program, it can't just cease to exist because you're going to have cows that end up in places you don't want them. And the current contract that they're using usually has a 24 to 48 hour window of picking up. In the 5, I think so, or years or more since Griffith has not been doing it, Natural Pain quit doing it, I think they've only had 5 complaints, and it was only because he didn't get there within 48 hours. So he spent a lot of money on his business trying to offer a good service for everybody. He's got a good dispatcher that works with his team that's very responsive and creates good routes to get these cattle picked up. So I appreciate y'all taking the time to discuss this. I appreciate all the support that's here in the deals. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Van. Thank you for rising to the occasion and running with this. Did you say that Griffith is not the vendor? Who is the vendor at this point?
So we will have to put out an RFP, but there's only one person that's capable of doing this program. It's out of Monroe, his name, or the business name is All Around.
All around them.
Yes, that's who's been doing it for years. But again, for our policies and auditors, we'll put it out in RFP, but we anticipate these the only. But we'll see.
Okay, that's been fruitful. Anything else before we go to a vote? Mr. Brown?
On a lighter note, I'm not sure when it originally aired, but I caught at the your segment of Tennessee Crossroads last night. It really made Giles County proud.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I did review it last night. Thank you.
All right, any public comment? Seeing none, we'll go to a vote. All in favor of, and look, in the motion, again, to clarify, is to simply approve that specific line item ending in 312. Contract with private agencies down $83,932, the same as previous years. So Just an acknowledgement, we're not increasing it 18%, although we're getting all indication that that may be the actual cost.
The contract, not the program, yeah, so it's, but I appreciate that.
Right. So we're voting now on maintaining our current level of funding. Any other questions or clarifications before we go to a vote? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Uh,
Any opposed? Great, that's unanimous vote. Thank you, Ms. Flowers. Thank you, Mr. Van. Thank you, Mr. McCullough. We do have our representative from Fire and Rescue, JR and Josh are here. Would y'all like to go ahead and take up your department? All right. Page 14, I believe.
Sorry. Well, for Chief Counsel, I'm unable to be here today, it's a work schedule. I must apologize for that, so as soon as I'm done here, I'll leave myself, so I can go back to work. So if there's any questions that you have, I'll answer the best of my ability.
Do we have any motions? Mr. Jones?
Motion approved.
Motion to approve, seconded by Mr. Savage. Specifically, we're looking at the section titled Rescue Squad, correct? Section 54420, with a proposed budget of $289,000, $433. Any questions? We've had a motion second. Any comments? Just for a little background for the public, we used to take up the libraries and fire and rescue under our nonprofits. But given that the libraries had a maintenance of effort, and I don't think fire and rescue has a maintenance of effort, but we just know we need to fund fire and rescue. We had
Increase in calls, dramatic, sorry, over the years, we went from 300 calls in 2019, I would double to almost 6 to 9 a year. And we're still trying to operate, trying our best to do more. We're trying our best to go on graduates, we're trying to keep, taking part on the camera.
Ms. Jones.
what's your total budget?
My total budget is $299,433. That is the $289 for Giles County donation, and also a $10,000 donation to the Pulaski to provide education services, and also our local rehab area for any beach lake fires.
Yep. But that doesn't include your fundraising.
Okay. Our fundraising, we don't usually budget it because it's, it's not really guaranteed.
Yeah.
We are starting a track pool and we, our first years last year, we've had a really good success. We're going to do it again this year. Of course, it also depends on the weather. So if there's rain out, then we won't have that fundraiser this year. So I'll not get anything.
And your status as a non-profit is shaky.
Yes, ma'am. We just renewed it a few months ago.
Thank you.
Mr. Jones.
So y'all have any calls in Pulaski?
We're going to say, well, not too many. I mean, majority of our calls are out in the county. Mainly, I think our biggest area is the Roseville, Richland area, a little bit south. But Pulaski is more of a beach way. If we have an automatic beach way through the city of Pulaski, so if there's a wreck with a traffic or a confirmed structure fire, we'll automatically get paid. Other than our alarms, the city of Pulaski handles all of the calls.
Ms. Curry.
How many do you have on the interstate?
Several. It's hard to keep up, but we used to have about, I think we had 100 barracks 1 year, and then dropped about 50. And this year, I think we're already at 20, 30, obviously. A few fires.
DDOT is announcing they're expanding their help truck program beyond the metropolitan areas. And they've already done it in regions 4, 50 mile tank, so we're reaching 3. So hopefully once they expand that, that'll help y'all.
Yes, man, that's not the problem they expect in traffic.
We're seeing no increased requests under this budget. Any other questions? Any public comment? I'm sure we all would like to commend you for all that y'all do. Goes without saying, I hope, but thank you for your service. Mr. Reed,
Yes. I think a lot of people don't realize that we did not have the service right here, but the county insurance premiums skyrocket because of land and fire. So people complain about what we're spending on rescue squad. Look at what it's going to cost to increase their insurance. So they do a great service. They not only work for free, they go out and try to work to raise some of their own money. So that's kind of fair situations. If they were different rescues squad. So
thank you. Anything else before we go to a vote? All right, all in favor of approving rescue squad proposed budget, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? That's unanimous, and thank you, sir.
we have all of us, I have to leave after this.
All right, thank you. Yes, ma'am. A great point of order has been mentioned. Who is sitting in for Mr. Hopkins this morning? Oh, Mr. Savage, thank you. Lois, if the record could reflect that Mr. Savage is sitting in for Mr. Hopkins. Anyone here regarding soil conservation? I know Mr. Chip Rose is normally the one who educates us on that. So I know that we've been briefed on what they do and they hand out their materials every year. Before we get into county commission, let's just go ahead and get into county commission. If somebody shows up for soil conservation, we'll take that up. If we could all turn to page 5. Okay, so the commissioners are pretty well aware that within the past 4 years, we've talked a lot about how commissioners are paid. We initially voted to simply divide the county executive salary by 21, but then had a penalty, a penalty for missing meetings, so that commissioners don't simply receive a check whether or not they show up to meetings. Since then, we've got the indication from CTAS that you can't have a penalty payment. So we had to remove that. As it stands, we're simply doubling the budget. I mean, now that we're just looking at the raw numbers, last year it was 55,000. Now we're at 113,000. I'll say that I would make a motion to amend that to the previous year's amount. We can obviously debate that. But mainly, my main reason is I'm not comfortable now that the penalty payment has been removed. That provision is what made me comfortable with the new structure, so that you're not just getting a paycheck with no guarantee that you show up to any meetings. So this isn't quite what I voted for, in my opinion. So I'd like to make the motion to amend that to the previous year's budget amount. Ms. Goolsby, second. Any discussion? Mr. Carpenter?
You know, well, when you become a commissioner, if you're doing it for the money, you're gonna be broke. Because, you know, we want to make a difference for the county. We want to do what's right. And I don't feel like that increasing our pay for the commissioner's pay let's show the big citizens of Giles County that we'll do our part. So we're asking department heads to cut it. Or like some of them already this morning, is not asking for any new money. Let's do the same.
Yes, sir. Mr. Savage.
Yeah, I was just curious, because it doesn't look like it's been, spent very much in previous years. Oh, why is the in-service and, staff development, line item so much higher than what's actually spent?
Well, because we have a new commission coming on board next year, and hopefully the new commission will take advantage of the training opportunities that they're provided. This commission, I think this past year, we've only had one individual who's attended the training.
Can I clarify, attended the training and asked for reimbursement from the county?
Correct, because I went to the, new commissioner training whenever I was elected, but I did not request any reimbursement for it. I paid for it myself. So I do personally believe that if commissioner pay is increased, then, both the travel, line item and the in-service staff development, line item should both be zero, and you should pay for it yourself. Out of the money that you receive, as your monthly stipend. Personally, that's what I would prefer to do, but that's not a motion on the table at the moment.
Ms. Goolsby.
I do want to clarify also. I do all my training online. And that's free. You can sit in your, at my office and watch as many videos and take as many tests as you want. Right.
I believe we have a new commissioner who is elected, and they want to submit a reimbursement request for training, that we cannot refuse that. So, you know, to put that in there, I think it's wise. I mean, we do know we're gonna have new commissioners come on board, and if we want to limit them opportunities, for especially something that they can, there's, you know, we cannot deny that.
Mr. Morgan, do you have something?
As someone who does a lot of training because of my job, yes, online training is good, but there's nothing like in-person training. In-person training is a lot more effective for a lot of people. Me personally, I benefit more from in-person training, hands-on types.
Oh, and I would agree. When I take the free CTAS online courses, you really do have the ability to sort of click through and retain what you want to retain on. Have a movie going on the other screen. I'm just being honest. You don't learn as much. When we went up to that conference in Cool Springs, sure, we paid for our own hotels, but gosh, I think we learned worlds more being amidst other commissioners, hearing other ideas, what other counties are doing. There's a lot of cross training that can occur there. But I don't know that. Yes, Ms. Goolsby.
I was just stating that because the statement was only one commissioner, and there was a lot of us back there. Just to say, we are training, we're just not giving you a big, if that makes sense.
And I'll also say too, though, we used to have a lot of commissioners going to a lot of these trainings over the years, and like I said, and I think it should, this is the first commission that I've seen where there's not a lot of training.
And maybe Mr. Jones wants to speak to this, but I recall it was in the wake of Mr. Jones sort of pointing out, hey, we shouldn't have to get reimbursements from the county. Public shaming ensued. None of us wanted to bill for our hotel at that point, you know, because you're right. You shouldn't be in the hole for serving as a commissioner. But anyway, Mr. Jones, I didn't mean to steal your time.
Yeah, and, records show up voted against the raise start, but now it's been implemented. I'm okay with it. I'm fine. Let me tell you this here, before we came on, the commission, the highest paid commissioner, drawing $3,800 a year. All right, we've cut meetings and combined meetings and done other things. Now the average is $2,619 per year. So that's $1,100, $1,200 difference already that we're saving. All right, and like I said, most of the commissioners do their online training. So that's saving the county a bunch of money right there. Now, we keep talking about we want more people come in and more people to campaign, more people to run for this office. So I don't think that taking away what's gonna be, and over here, Beth, you might answer this, because I'm having issues. If you're this, it says up there on 191, the waste would be 113 for budgeting for. All right, and then we also have 7,000 for social security. Or would that come out of the total?
So if we decrease the one number, the other should go down as well.
No,
Then-
should that be added in
When
like?
you are the same as it is now, when you are you receive a paycheck, the employer has to pay social security benefit. And then the employee also pays that same share. So we cannot split those expenses.
This is just employee part.
The employer,
Oh, you're.
and again, I do want to mention, to make sure that we get this correct, how we read the resolution. At the time we passed the resolution, it was the current county executive salary. So obviously, I'm sure some of you have noticed that the county executive salary budget for next year is higher than what's here. The way we read the resolution, it was at the current rate at that time, so that's why it's a little different.
Mr. Wilbur.
How can you change the resolution? That we've already got, it, just because you said you're not gonna fund it, is that what you're saying? So you can't change the resolution right here.
You're right. You're right. So I think the effect of, if we were to vote right now or today to reduce it to the previous year's amount, between now and next September, we would have to pass a resolution saying, given the budget constraints, we had to roll back, we're unable to afford the new structure, we're going back to the old structure. I think it would be easy enough to do, but you're right, it would require another resolution before new folks take office.
We've done discussed this, I don't know how many
Oh, I
times.
know.
And you know the reason why you can't change the county executive salary? It's the law, that's why you can't do that. Because the previous committee can't take away from his salary. So there's a law why you can't do it, you know why that is.
I personally don't know the policy reason.
Well, I'm not a lawyer or a doctor. I don't know the exact, brief, that's based on, Beth might be able to tell us.
Are you asking for the line that I may like to different amounts? Or make sure I'm following?
I'm talking about, the state sets his salary,
Correct,
all departments, not just him.
Correct.
We can't reduce,
correct, that is correct.
you know why that is?
I don't know if it's in maybe state statute.
I'm sure it is.
Yeah, it's in statute to depoliticize the salary of the elected official.
That's right, that's what's happening right here.
Yeah.
Exactly what's happening right now. But there's a law against it for department heads, but it's not for the county commission.
I'm simply trying to close the gap that we have, so we don't have to dip into our reserves, dwindling reserves.
Look, what I'm saying is, it's already a resolution, and we've been discussed this numerous times. And you bring it up again.
I'm trying to cut the deficit we have today in half. This is our last day. I think it's the conservative approach. Ms. Jones, then Mr. Savage.
We'll get the cart before the horse. We need to redo the resolution or this budget's gonna fail because the resolution won't pass. And if it fails, if you can't do the resolution, then it's gonna require to go back and advertise again. This is not well thought out, policy. If you want to reduce the, commissioner pay, it can be done later if 11 commissioners agree to it. But it has to come up under a resolution. You can't just take it out of the budget and assume you're gonna get that resolution passed. And I think it's mean spirited as well. I think we need to, as far as balancing the budget, we need to take another penny out of the school budget.
Okay, and you say we can't do it.
I'm saying,
If you could point to me the authority that says we can't do it, please do. I would rather take a cut out of our pocket than the schools.
it's going to, mess up the vote in June because the resolution it's gonna be dependent on the resolution. And you're taking a chance that, that resolution will fail. Then this is not well.
I hear you. Do you have anything else, Ms. Jones?
No.
Mr. Savage.
Yes, sir. I, in a way, kind of what I was gonna say, kind of mimics what, Gail says. I think the issue you have is you have an existing resolution tied to this dollar amount. So I believe if you wanted to change this, the best way to do it would be introduce a resolution for the next meeting to rescind the prior resolution, go back to how our pay structure is now, and then you could amend your budget following month to match that dollar figure. I believe that doing it this way would muddy the budget because of the previous resolution. It would make it very hard to get the budget passed in a timely manner, which we've already seen what a mess that is. This budget is not passed in a timely manner. Of course, it's your motion. You're welcome to do whatever you like. But I don't think that would be a cleaner way to attempt to accomplish the same goal.
All right, we have Mr. Womble and then Mr. Wilburn. Thank you.
When I noticed this increase, I knew I was not running for county commissioner. So I was not voting to give myself a raise. But 4 years ago, we had multiple districts that only had 3 people running for the 3 seats. I was in favor of this raise to increase public interest in serving on this commission. Can't prove this, but by the amount of people running this season compared to 4 years ago, I feel like this raise in pay may have contributed to that. And that was the point of this raise in pay. It gets more interest in these seats. You know, every seat in here is contested this year. And that's not been like that in the past. And I don't think, you know, you can't make a living being a commissioner, obviously. So did that raise in pay affect the influence the people now bringing to these seats to get them interested? Did it do what we don't think it did? I think it did, because every seat in here is contested, and that's what our goal was. So I feel like voting for this, we've sort of misinformed our candidates what they expect if we reduce it at this point. Just my opinion.
Thank you. Mr. Wilburn.
I guess you keep this in mind also. If you don't want to pay, you can always turn it right back into the list. You can put it back in the budget. I don't know if anybody's done that or not, but you're welcome to do it.
Yes, nobody's ever done that.
Or I'll.
Mr. Adams.
Yeah, I've been doing this a pretty good while. You don't do anything. When I get home with the class, I have 2 to 6 people. We're on call. Can't go for the rest of the heat. We got somebody. You could, I guess what I'm thinking is trying to get it where you go out to pay it. Certainly won't make the money. I had to buy extra gas twice this week. Gotta eat, come down here, sit 5 hours, and get $40. Really making money. You don't hesitate to give somebody else. I mean, raise it without adding to just. Don't matter about them, but all they want to do is get something at the plane. It's a bigger head. Charlie, at least you get your gas. Lunch break, I'm not just sit for an hour. With nobody else. I mean, in here sitting now, we go to work. And they wouldn't get paid.
I think you're right. I mean, we average what, like $10 an hour for the amount of hours we spend just in the meetings. That's not too, yeah, you're right. The work is constant. Mr. Jones.
I don't know. I'm not here. Come on. I don't know. Maybe if I takes my place.
Yeah, I'm just trying to bring us back.
Do that.
I'm just trying to bring us back to the central point is we have the rest of this morning to close $110,000 gap. This would do over half that. Mr. Jones, did you have something?
Yeah, I would like to point out that, one reason we're down to 55,000, because we did streamline. We have got less meetings now than we used to have. And that was on the operation of all the commissioners. Do that to combine meetings and not have to have this meeting. Now, I don't see us getting penalize, because we try to streamline and have less meetings. Because it's less money now than it was 4 years ago for some commissioners that wasn't, like, our good friend, my son Jackson, this last year made about $3,800. Nobody in here is gonna make $3,800 this year. Don't see that, we don't have as many meetings to go to. That's what we want to do. I just want to get out for public clarification.
Thank you, Ms. Valentine.
Just want to say, as a new candidate, no candidate I know came on board because of pay.
Mr. Savage and Dr. Lathrop.
Yeah, just for rough figures for individuals who don't have the budget in front of them, essentially what it would be doing is the commissioner pay would essentially change from roughly $200 a month to roughly $400 a month. That's about what it would come out to after Social Security, Medicare are taken out. Still a low hourly rate. I don't really care that much either way, because I lose money by coming to meetings anyway, but it's not about money. However, if your goal is to get more younger people, fewer retired people on the commission, some sort of dollar figure that helps offset that cost is helpful if that's your eventual goal. But at the end, if you run for commissioner for $400 a month, you suck at economics, you probably be a very poor commissioner.
Thank you, Dr. Lathrop.
Well, this Thursday is a good topic to discuss, and I'd like to hear more from the public. The premise of this, in my opinion, is that the county commission says they want to cut on services and pay to the people who do the actual work in the departments. And while they want to try to cut the budget, tighten their belts, they want to inflate what they get to service. I think it's reprehensible that we should try to get a pay increase, which amounts to about doubling the pay, 100%, while we're asking everybody else to cut. And I'd like to get the public's opinion on this. As far as today's budget, I think that I would not vote to approve this, and I think it should go to full commission, and a proposal be made to rescind pay raise.
Thank you. Mr. Morgan and Ms. Curry. Okay.
I do agree that we should, I mean, I'm in favor of reducing this, but without the resolution being passed, I do think we're setting ourselves up to screw up our vote on June 25th.
I think that if we pass the reduction today, it would be pretty clear to us all that we need to go change the resolution. But I guess the people who would be upset by the vote, they wanted to, rally and vote against the resolution, that would have the effect. It would not be a good look publicly, I would say, to be honest, but it would also delay the entire budget process probably a month. But to come back in July, like we did last year, maybe the timing is, we could get a legislative meeting in before we vote on this collectively.
Yeah, but there's no guarantee it would pass.
Okay,
And then we would be,
we have a proposal for a straw poll. The first one gets Mr. Morgan.
So there's 7 of us that would be the commissioners or county commissioners, by show of hands, who gets it.
Nobody's salaries for you.
I don't think it's unfair at all. I think the reason most of us are running is because of constant bickering back and forth like things that we've seen over the last 4 years. That's why I'm should be more collaborative.
Thank you. Ms. Alberry.
Okay, the commission that's sitting here are the ones that voted in this pay increase in your committee meetings. Okay, they made the resolution. So basically you're saying, we're not gonna go by the resolution that was made by the commission. So you're, in my opinion, you're setting yourself up for a legal issue. So you need to make a resolution to go back and get that passed before you start cutting money on this isn't like a department where we're buying postage stamps and stuff like that. And me, no, I'm not running for the money. Because when you figure the money, everybody's talking about gas going up and all that. It's gonna go up for us too. So none of us here, I think we're doing it for the money. That's something that this biggest commission decided to do and bring here. So you need to fix that before you can take it out of the budget, or you're setting yourself up for not following the amendment you made or the resolution.
Mr. Reisner.
Not related to your public, but I would just like to say, when I go out and talk to people, of course, I'm running for election, and I'm not a real political person. The only reason I'm running for election, the only way to get the job that I feel I'm qualified to have and want to have is for office. But I tell people, they ask me all the time, these political things. What do you think about this? What do you think about that? You figure any of these other races and stuff? I know the most important people you're going to find vote for is the commissioner races. But y'all are the 21 most powerful people in county government. And if y'all are not worth $400 a month, what kind of problem do we have? I know ain't none of y'all in here for the money, because like Mr. Sagg said, you have to be insane to think. And this whole line of questioning, y'all have to sit here in an election year, top it all off to question your own salary. I understand you got to balance the budget, and that's what all of y'all want to do. But if we as the public don't think that our 21 commissioners are worth $400 a month, we got a problem. I know nobody signed up. They didn't sign up because they're double salary, because the salary's better than anybody. But our commissioners are going to be losing money if they continue to do what they do. And like I said, it's only $10 an hour for people. You're not even counting nowhere near the dedication that you put in, just like Mr. Adams said. And as the I know I'm only one person, but that's how I think.
Well, thank you. And look, I'm seriously not trying to upset any of y'all. I know we've been back and forth on this. We thought it was settled. I'm trying to close the gap. And there's really a few other ways. Reduce across the board the pay increase we're giving to the county employees by a fraction of a percentage point. There's not a lot of options. Or we dip into a reserve account that only earns $400,000 a year unobligated at this point. I think that's drastic and not the best approach. We have to have reserves. I know Mr. Stowe. Mr. Stowe, can you shed some light on your thoughts here?
I can't shed any light on it. I'll tell you this. I appreciate and applaud your efforts to close the budget gap, right? What are you right now?
$110,000.
Okay. $110,000 out of a $23 million budget. So you've done a phenomenal job to get us to this point. Excuse me. I just want to give you the broader perspective, and it goes back to our policy. When you look at the fund balance policy, we define what a balanced budget is. Okay, and there's a variable in there, and that includes the money that you're not spending in this fiscal year. And you had a number that was developed yesterday, roughly. Do you remember what that was? I think Shane did it. Sorry.
Which number?
Like 300,000.
Of unspent funds for this fiscal year. About $300,000, I think. So you are within that $300,000 delta, right? If your current budget gap is $100,000, and we're looking at $300,000 of unspent funds in this fiscal year, you have balanced your budget. Okay, so you're spinning your wheels looking for another 110,000, and I applaud that, because every $110,000 you don't spend that's taxpayers' money that doesn't get spent. But I don't want you getting caught up in a debate on your pay, trying to balance the budget when, in my opinion, you are there.
Thank you. Yeah. Mr. Wilbur.
And that's what I feel from what Beth told us yesterday.
Okay. Look, that's fine. if y'all wanna wag a finger at me for trying to bring down the shortfall, I find it very ironic, honestly, but that's fine. We'll vote on this motion. Sounds like it'll fail, because people want to keep the pay increase there. And again, I'm not making a judgment on that. I'm sorry about any commentary I've added to it. We'll go to a vote unless, there's any other questions, public comment. And I appreciate it.
What is voted on?
The vote is to amend to, the 113,000 for commissioner pay to 55,000 as it's been. Okay? So a yes would be to reduce. A no would be to keep it as it's proposed, and then we'll vote on that. Mr. Jones.
You know, I think it's worth pointing out, I've talked to at least two people that voted for this raise 2 years ago. That voted for this raise, and now they want to rescind and get rid of the raise on their way up, they're not running. Like,
Okay.
the record, I voted against it back 2 years ago.
Anything else before we vote on the motion to reduce? Mr. Stover.
Sorry, if I could add just one more thing. You can still develop an initiative to decrease your pay if you want to do that in June, I guess, June, July, and August, separate and distinct from your budget. In other words, put in the budget what you have written to your resolution, and then if you do another resolution that reduces your pay, that just means that that money in the budget is not going to get spent, which is not a bad thing. Okay, so you can have your cake and eat it too.
Thank you. All right, so a yes is to reduce it to 55,000. A no is to keep it as it is, and then we'll vote on whatever that result is. So vote to reduce, we'll do a roll call. Dr. Lathrop,
Yes.
Mr. Jones,
No,
Mr. Adams, Mr. Savage,
No.
Mrs. Jones.
No,
I'll vote yes to reduce. Ms. Goolsby.
Yes.
So that fails, 3-4. So we're back to as it's written in our binders. Is there a motion to approve it as proposed?
I'd like to make a motion to approve, as written with, travel line item 355, reduced down to 2,000 and, in-service staff development 524 reduced down to 2,000.
If you could restate it to make sure I've tagged the appropriate line.
Yes, sir. I would like to make a motion to approve as written with the exception of, travel line 355 reduced to 2,000, as well as in-service staff development, which is line 524 reduced to 2,000. Both of those numbers still may be excessive, but with what Beth said, I didn't want to cut it too low.
Okay. So you're saving $3,000 on the travel line and 1,500 on the, sorry, 2,000. Sorry, 1,500 on the in-staff service development.
Yes, sir.
So Mr. Savage has proposed reducing this section by $3,500.
second.
Seconded by Ms. Jones. Mr. Womble.
You commissioner training, that mandates by the state, for all the commissioners will have to provide this training. Is that enough money left in that line to do that? That's my question.
Great question, David, and I don't want any commissioner who is running, that's in the audience, to think they cannot get reimbursed for their travel, because I know this commission you guys have, maybe, but that is not an expectation, and it's not something that is required of anybody. And I think that's, personally, I think you are limiting yourself by even, not giving them the opportunities, because training is very important, and I agree. In-person training, you're gonna get a lot more than just watching it on a computer screen. And so I think that would be really hurting the future commissioners wanting to come on board and limiting the opportunities. But to answer your dog question, I don't know maybe how much it would be for everybody. I don't know what those amounts are. But I know that one time this commission used to spend around $15,000 on training. Because most everybody actually into training conferences. Now, if some money use it for vacation, I don't know, I can't speak to that. but I just know that we used to have a lot of people attending conferences and training.
Mr. Wilbur?
It's not in our rules or policy that you are have to do reimburse your travel with a certain.
Obviously, if employees or if officials do not submit reimbursements, then obviously we're not aware of that.
Right.
But
You cannot refuse it.
that's right, we will not refuse that, no matter if y'all figure in the budget or not, because we cannot. That would be like telling an employee, we're not gonna pay you for a service. That is policy that you are eligible for that, and it should not be considered that it should be denied. That's an individual's personal choice. We would never deny that.
Just to remind y'all too, we tightened the rules as to, you know, you can't make it a long weekend if you're gonna go to the Gatlinburg conference. It has, if y'all recall, the commissioners who aren't new, we did maybe 2 years ago, tighten the rules so that it's a little harder to abuse this travel.
We've changed a lot of rules. They'll seem to affect anything. It go right back to the way it was. Well, about that too.
Our travel policy is very strict, which is the way the financial minister wanted it to be. And it is very, very strict, and it's very, very good when it's consistent. We follow it to the T.
And I do know about it, Mr. Wilbur, as chair of the legislative committee.
I'm not saying the job, I'm saying we don't.
Right, because I say,
I just said everything is what I'm saying.
You're right. As chair of the legislative committee, I feel like we just flip flop month to month. And I know that's gotta be frustrating for y'all. It's frustrating for me to have to, you know, chair it, but Ms. Jones.
We're not forbidding anybody from going to these trainings. We're just guessing that, we probably won't use that much money in these line items, which we haven't in the last, 3 or 4 years. And that money's just been tied up. And it's a possibility that there'll be more that goes training, and maybe we have to put a little money in that line item later, but based on our last few years' actions, it's not been utilized. So this is not forbidding people from going and getting reimbursed.
We have Mr. Womble, Gene, then Mr. Savage, then Mr. Jones, then Mr. Adams.
I compare this to the election year for our election commission. Next year, we have a new commission coming in with a minimum of 9 new commissioners that are going to have to go to state mandated new commissioner training. Now, y'all know we can get our 5 hours a year online with texting, but you have to do the initial. Is there a certain work? That's where it's the initial new
Orientation,
that you have to go to. So we have to make sure there's enough money in the line to pay for that. 4 years ago, it was in Murfreesboro. So that's somewhere that, we can easily drive to today and not have to do a hotel, right? Well, where will it be next year? I don't know if that changes year to year. You can't expect 9 commissioners to drive to Knoxville. I just want to see enough lines, money in this line to cover the new commissioner training at minimum.
Okay. And again, the motion is to reduce training from, travel from 5,000 to 2,000 and training from 3,500 to 2,000. Is that right, Mr. Savage?
That's correct.
Okay. So, Mr. Barnaby.
I just want to say this. I don't know how many of you went through last year's budget to this year, but John, Department A of Just anyhow Department. And it was held last week. Y'all have done a phenomenal job. The department heads, commission, everybody. Congratulate you on doing that this time and moving it. Not all the big stuff, but this is the damnedest mess I've ever seen. And y'all sitting here doing this over $400. I mean, let's get this approved and move on. I mean, all of our budgets cost more money. It costs more money for your gas, it costs more money for a hamburger, whatever. Why do we want to sit here and dicker? It's like Graham said, you already there. Let's not run this budget season over $400 a piece.
Okay. Thank you. Mr. Savage, you're next.
Good.
Okay. Mr. Jones? Mr. Adams?
Well, I just want to I just want to say, everybody has to get this training. I'm with you guys, but we would usually travel with folks. Leave a certain place, go, get a training in, we come back. So you got a lot of shit. Good, you can't go over and say, well, we'll get a weekend, that weekend we'll go around. On our next training, don't do that. Get 3 or 4 together. We went in the vans one year, they're a whole van load.
Thanks, everybody. I feel like this has been a great conversation. Probably ready to go to vote. I don't see anybody else's hand up. Dr. Laker.
Mr. Savage's, proposal get a second.
It did by Ms. Jones.
Okay.
Okay, so we're voting to approve this budget as written, but reducing the travel line by $3,000 and the training by $1,500. Everybody understand? Mr. Jones?
If, one last question on those lines, we're talking about benefit people, if we, at the end of the year, there's no travel expense to come out, where does that money go?
Back into the general fund balance.
That's just what I want to point out. We don't need to pick it out, it's going, excuse me, sir. We don't need to do that, it's gonna go right back to the general fund.
Thank you. All right, we're gonna go to roll call vote of committee members on Mr. Savage's motion. Ms. Jones, what's the second? Dr. Lathrop,
No.
Mr. Jones,
No.
Mr. Adams, Mr. Savage,
Yes.
Ms. Jones.
Aye.
I'll vote aye. Ms. Coulson.
No.
All right, so that fails. We're back to the original as written, no reductions in the county commission section, okay? Any further discussion? Any public comment? We'll now go to a vote. Following all that on just what has been proposed in our binders from the beginning. I think we do need a motion though. Is there a motion to pass it as it's written? Ms. Jones? Seconded by Mr. Jones. Any discussion on, any further discussion? Any public comment? Seeing none. We'll do a roll call vote. This is just on the budget as written, totaling $138,407. Dr. Lathrop,
No.
Mr. Jones,
Yes.
Mr. Adams,
Yes.
Mr. Savage,
Yes.
Ms. Jones,
Aye.
I'll vote no. Ms. Goolsby.
No.
Okay, well, it still prevails, 4-3. I know we're ready for a comfort break, but I know soil conservation's here. We need to get Mr. Rose out of here and, we'll turn to soil conservation. Somebody can direct me to the page, please.
Page 20.
Page 20. Same as last year, only increased the 2.63. I think someone got a 5% increase on their steps. And I hate to put you on the hot seat, Mr. Rose, but could you give us an overview of your budget?
First of all, apologize for not being here earlier. I was not aware of the work session or that we were going to today, so I apologize for that. Thanks. It's an option to make me aware of it. Does anybody have any questions for me to get started?
Ms. Jones?
Listen, you have 2 employees,
Yes, ma'am.
and we all work 40 hours.
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Jones?
Motion approved.
Motion by Mr. Jones. I'll second. Dr. Lathrop?
No.
Okay. All right, so we have a motion and second on approving the soil conservation budget as proposed. It's there in front of you on page 20. Any further questions for Mr. Rose? I know that he briefs us every year on everything that's been going on, all of their efforts, how their money's spent.
Currently in 2025, we brought in, we have multiple federal programs, but we brought in $1 million, which is $970 and some change. So, $1 million through just 2 federal programs last year, and then additional 110,000, 107,000, for state programs, just by having these employees there. So $1.1 million for the 2 employees that y'all are paying for. And like I said, I'm not included in that budget, but because of those 2 employees, it allows me to be here because we have a sole conservation district presence. So without those employees being present, then we go to another county and have to service Giles County out of that county. So that's a win for Giles County, in my opinion. This year, we've currently already obligated $2 million, so it's double what we brought in last year just in those 2 programs. So actually, it's 2.4. Sorry, we got it through the first one yesterday. Increase from last year, and I expect to see the same next year. So dollar wise, the turnover is very high as far as the way the dollars work for what you're investing. So I would recommend we continue those employees.
Thank you. All right, seeing no further comment, are there any public comments? We'll go to a vote. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you, Mr. Ruddy.
Thank you.
All right, let's take a 10-minute comfort break, please. All right, thanks, everybody. Let's get back going, push through. We're gonna start with financial management. We'll let Beth. AJ.
As I stated yesterday, we were able to save on our data processing because of the IT, removing the hardware support from our software vendor. So that is a decrease in my budget. It's also stated in financial management. One thing we're trying to look at options for is to do, of course, I still reflected for postage increase, but in order to kind of mitigate some of those costs, we're trying to look into exploring the ACH payment processes where we could probably try to limit the number of checks that we actually write out, to try to save on postage and also check stop. So that's something that I'm hoping that we can get all the kinks worked out with the trustee's office and the bank to be able to implement that and try to further save. And the rest of it is just pretty much the same as last year, or things that had to increase.
Mr. Jones, do you have a motion? Motion to approve. Mr. Savage seconds it. Let's open it up for discussion and questions. Ms. Jones.
My standard question, how many employees is the work week hours?
Yes, ma'am. So I have a total of 6, including myself, and we are on the 35-hour work week. And I did want to add one more thing, so I know anytime I improve with my staff, I like to. As of probably this summer, we will have every employee in the office will be CCFO certified, which is a huge accomplishment for the office. Our last one, I think she just had a couple classes and she'll be certified.
Mr. Wilbur.
I was noticing you said you had how many people?
Including myself is 6.
And 35 hours a week. And we went to that yesterday.
We did. So
So that you don't get paid for your lunch, what you're saying. You work 40 hours, you don't get paid for your lunch.
technically, we reviewed the correct HR policy now. It says we work 35 hours a week and we get paid for 40. That is what policy states. So, but our hours are 8 to 4, just like every other office is in the courthouse.
Anybody? All right, we'll go to a vote. Any public comment before we go to a vote? All in favor of approving the financial management budget we've just discussed, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? None? All right. One department we didn't address yesterday was General Sessions Court. When I emailed Judge Richardson's office, I got an automatic reply that they were out of office. So I don't think Judge Richardson's available to field your questions. I can probably answer a lot of the questions about General Sessions Court. And I think from a high level, Beth can too, in terms of what, first of all, where is their budget?
Page 10.
Page 10.
So the judge is responsible for 3 budgets of the General Sessions, it's the Judicial Commissioners on the next page, and then the Youth Service Officer. So on the judge's budget, the General Sessions, the only increase that you'll see is for his mandatory increase. And again, that is by the state. It tells us what the minimum salary is for the General Sessions judge, which is different from the election officials. And then also the increase for 2.63 for the secretary, and every other line item is the same.
Mr. Jones, motion approved. Motion approved by Mr. Jones, second by Mrs. Jones. Discussion. Seeing none, any public comment? Yes, ma'am.
Clarification, we're voting on just the General Sessions Court 278,105 total, or are we taking in?
Also judicial commissioners,
Okay,
with those magistrates that are, up at all hours, sign warrants.
so, Terry, did you include that in your motion?
I'm sorry, what I include.
The judicial commissioners in the motion, did you make that familiar?
Do we need to do that? I'll do it.
Okay, so that covers, what the general sessions court is responsible for.
Ms. Wilson, did you get that?
And look, the juvenile services at the top of page 14, that is also under the umbrella of general sessions court. That's the youth service officer. She's great. It was Pam Arnell before her. She's the one that signs petitions where unruly children, or delinquency charges basically, occur. She does a lot on her own. Mr. Jones.
We have, 54,200, is that also?
Okay.
That's
So
54,200, 53,300, and 53,700.
Do you want to note on 54 for the juvenile services, there is a decrease of that budget. The part-time position has been removed. Apparently they're restructuring how they operate, and they're not asking for that position anymore.
My second still applies.
thank you. Okay, Lois, are we all on the same page?
There's three columns, three parts, 54,240. 53,300. And 53,700.
Flipping through, make sure we had this. Because there's some of these parts, for example, autopsies was sort of a, I think we talked about autopsies, I think there's a line item for that, I'm not sure we approved that, I don't believe we have. County attorney, which is where it's at. Let's go to page 5. That small section at the bottom, county attorney, $50,000, you'll notice it's up from previous years, no?
Budgetary is not.
What do you mean by that?
We've been budgeting 50,000. Well, actually, we used to budget
Okay.
60, 70,000, but, the budget is not increased, it's just we have not, benefited as much. In Graham's infinite wisdom, he's been able to avoid the use of the county attorney as much as possible.
Motion to approve.
Mr. Savage, motion to approve, as is.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Second by Mrs. Jones. Discussion on the county attorney line. Yes, ma'am.
I have a question. Are we required to have a county attorney?
Well, I would assume so, but it's not, I haven't seen a bright line of law that's saying we had to. Is there a motion to do without? Okay, seeing none. Any other questions or discussion on that? And for the record, I do believe Mr. Williams, as well as McKinsey before him, don't charge their normal hourly rate, it's some reduced rate, because that, and I guess the understanding is, they know they're gonna commit so many hours a year, a good amount of hours a year to it, so they give a slightly reduced rate, I don't know what his rate is. But I do recall it was reduced, if you normally charge $2.50 an hour, maybe it starts to. Anything else before we go to vote on the county attorney? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Unanimous. Next, if you turn to page 7, planning. This be our regional planning group. Or committee. Mr. Jones, motion to approve. Second by anyone. Second by Mr. Savage. Beth? Any thoughts? County buildings is right underneath it. Well, we're still on planning, but just to clarify, planning is the regional planning commission that Mr. Edwards heads currently. Just want to make sure we know what we're approving. And I imagine that budget just covers the costs of meetings for the,
Yes. Back years ago, under Executive Green, there's a lot of contingency about even having that committee, and so it was pulled out to show those costs separately.
Mr. Jones, may I ask why the decrease?
It's just the same budget as last year. And honestly, this is maybe something that needs to be circled back to legislature, because if the county commission is receiving that flat monthly fee, this may not be needed except for members outside of that, the commission, and then you all may need to, have that documented, how the pay structure is still gonna stand. So we may want to circle back at some point on that to give some clarification, how we're gonna handle it going forward. But for our sake, for budgeting purposes, I like the budget the same as last year. Now, obviously, I don't think we're gonna spend that, but I just didn't feel comfortable cutting this budget without, any proper direction.
we have a motion and second. I have a question. So I imagine the commissioners that attend those meetings are they paid from this number? Yeah, well, I'm just curious about that, the community members that also serve on that board, do they receive compensation?
They do,
Okay,
same as the commissioners.
okay. Any other questions, comments? Seeing none, any public comment? Seeing none, we'll go to a vote. All in favor of approving the planning budget that we've talked about, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? That's unanimous. All right, so right beneath it, county buildings. Is this where our insurance on the county buildings is also included, or is that separate? Okay, so what is, you'll see what the line items say, from utilities, custodial personnel, benefits for those people.
One thing that you notice on, if you look at the amended budget side, the 596 for consultants, those funds will roll into next year's budget, and we'll take care of those in July. That's for the consulting fees for the courthouse renovations. I didn't want to muddy the waters and put them in here, because again, we don't know how we're going to start that. But just know we'll roll those over in July. And the rest of it is just basically just going through and just trying to evaluate the prior year versus the current year as to where we think our expenditures are going to be. We did decrease one significantly. It was under contract services or maintenance agreements. We dropped off a contract, I believe. But relatively everything else is staying the same.
Any other questions? Do we have a motion second? Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Ms. Brown.
I think that's totally.
Was it 4? How many custodial staff have Johnny?
4, including John.
Anything else? All right, we'll go to any public comment before we go to the vote. All right, we're approving the county buildings section. Do we have a motion? I'll make a motion to approve. Second, Mr. Jones. Any further comment? Okay, we'll go to a vote. All? Yes, Ms. Pruitt.
The building improvements, was that the door? The difference in expense for building improvements?
I remember that being around 100,000.
Yes, ma'am. The door for the annex, what came out of 171, what was reflected this current year was for the archives. Because we took that out of coach and motel tax. So the total 302,000 was applied to the archives. Not in total, I want to think the other portion of that, I think it was around $200,000 that took care of the archives. The remaining, I think, may have been a carryover from the prior year. You can give us a second, we can pull that information up unless Graham remembers.
I think there was about 94,000 for the annex.
And that one came from 171.
Yep.
So you want to know what was spent this current fiscal year?
Yeah.
The archives. Shane is looking, if you give us just a moment. Thank you.
Any other questions while we find that answer?
And it may be just going from memory, I think with the courthouse door grant that we have, I think we may have flowed that through that line, but we'll see.
That'll get us way closer to that total.
Yes, it's for the courthouse doors, and that was a grant, is what we.
Courthouse doors is a good idea.
Any other questions? Comment, public comment? Seeing none, talking about the county buildings, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Bottom of page 12, please. We're looking at that small item at the bottom of page 12, traffic control.
Well, it's not part of the sheriff's budget. I don't really know if we approved it or not. I know it's kind of a standalone. This is for our traffic lights that we have in Allen County.
There are two.
3, I think, right there.
There's 3 and 1 in contention with the city.
Is that one in contention, the one at the bypass Walmart intersection?
Yes, we have paid for that in years past, but that's not in this budget because we contended for it and showed that it's not a county within county. It's actually within the annex part of the city.
Well done. All right, any further questions on the traffic control line item totaling $5,500? Any public comment? Question? All right, going to the vote, all in favor, please. Mr. Johnson. I appreciate you seeing that. Do you make a motion? Motion by Ms. Goolsby. Mr. Jones seconds. Any further discussion on approving the traffic control? All right, going to a vote. All in favor? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? None. Topic 15, please. Yeah, so this is what we're talking about, autopsies, the medical examiner, county coroner. Total proposed budget of $165,000, which is.
So I did increase the autopsies because I don't even know if we're gonna make it through the end of this. Well, I know we're not gonna make this year, we're taking another one. So we're having a pretty substantial large monthly charges for autopsies. And again, those are generated through, I guess, the medical examiner or it's sheriff's department or. So, and again, this becomes, you can see last year, 2025, we spent 106,000. This year projected to spend 123, and I didn't think we will surpass the 123. So I felt like we needed to at least bump it up to 120 for our past, our historical trends. But again, that may be something you all want to discuss and treat it as need basis, but I felt that the need is there, and that is there to increase it.
Wilbur, are you saying it's their autopsy costs more, or is more autopsy being done?
So there's more being done.
Do we have a motion?
Motion approved.
Motion approved by Mr. Savage, second by Dr. Lakewood. To me, this autopsy item is similar to the indigent burials. We don't have control over what we're billed or who dies and who and what follows, but ultimately it comes back to us as a catch-all.
One thing,
somebody has to pay for it.
sorry, one thing that we have been trying to do, because obviously when we receive the invoices, we don't recognize individuals' names on the report. So we've been trying to filter those back through, Walter with EMS, just to kind of verify that these in fact are Giles County, I guess you say situational, to just further try to make sure that we're definitely not getting into a situation where we could be billed for the wrong body, if you will.
So, you're correct that it's not really a manageable line item. You have questions about the medical examiner's role in ordering autopsies. I recommend you bring it to the budget meeting.
Thank you. Any questions? Mr. Wilbur and then Mr. Morgan.
Who is it that determines where an autopsy is needed?
The medical examiner by statute is the only person who has authority to order them. Commission nor I have any authority to say it's not ordered. That's Dr. Butler.
Mr. Morgan?
The only other person that can send for autopsy is the DA. We work in overdose, they're going for autopsy, that's just the DA policy. Just to highlight some of what Dr. Black will tell you is, the only reason they should go for an autopsy can determine why they passed away. If there's any questionable, if there's any potential foul play. Yeah, 30 years ago, they got shot, and then they died 30 years later in the nursing home for an autopsy. No statute for murder. Those kind of things, so it's really hit or miss. I know last year we sent a lot for autopsy, that was more than I was used to. This year so far, I don't think we've sent as many. We've also had been a little slower, a little slower with this, which this month.
Hopefully that trend continues. Anything else? Any public comment? All right, we'll go to a vote. Yes, sir.
If we did budget this back to 90, that would, and we deal with it as we had to, that would bring our total deficit down to 80,000.
Yes, sir.
That's the reason why I noted that I did feel like to put the increase, because it was something that could be negotiable, because obviously it is a very unknown situation, but I was also going by the trends of where we're currently at.
I'm certainly tempted to scale it back to Gene closing the deficit. Mr. Stubbs.
I understand the intent of trying to draw down your budget, but I do not recommend you draw down a number that is a recurring expense and is showing a positive trend increasing every year.
Thank you. Okay, seeing no motions or motions to amend, we have a motion and second to approve. Do we not? Okay. Any further comments, questions before we go to a vote? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Top of page 17. Other local welfare services. This now is the pauper burials, aka indigent human burials, cremations to be more specific. That.
Now, that is what I did not increase, even the amended budget is 10.5. So the budget for 3,000 is what we've been previously budgeting. That is something that could be also negotiated as to what is the proper budgeting practice. Because last year we only budgeted 1,500, or we spent 1,500. This year we're on track to spend 10.5. So this is just really up for debate as to what's the magic number. We don't know. I do know that currently how we've treated that after we blew the budget on that amount is that Ram and I decided that every time we have one, we're just kind of bringing it to you. But that's really all I can comment on. We just don't know.
Motion to approve by Ms. Gould, second by Ms. Johnson. Ms. Gould.
fortunately, that's what handling is. I know it's a lot of extra work, because you have to track down the most here they are, and then state years, and things like that. And it is not an easy job, but also it's good that you do go to that. So we can see how it's being utilized over the years.
Right, and I would say Graham does a lot with that too, because he sees it before I do. By the time I see it, it's ready to be paid, but he also makes sure that it's, you want to make sure that it's not something that somebody's trying to take advantage of. And so I do think that he's worked with Steve as well on that to try to make sure that there is the last resort, because the last thing we want is for people to manipulate this and thinking the county's going to pay for a burial, because that's not what it's intended for.
So, if I could just, thank you, Beth. If you budgeted $100,000 for pauper burials, we would spend $100,000. If you publicize that we are doing pauper burials, guess how many people would identify as paupers? My point is, I think we need to keep this number low, and we need to look at each one of these individually, and if the county executive has to come back to you month after month after month to ask you for a bit more money, I think that's more true. I don't want to contradict myself with what we were just talking about, making sure you've got enough money in your budget for autopsies. But in this instance, I want you all, 21 commissioners, to know every time we're approving these, and if it goes above and beyond this number in the budget, so be it. Does that make sense? Thank you.
I'm also comfortable with our current practice of case-by-case basis. So that's not to inflate this. Any further questions, comments? Public comment?
The $1,100 is also noted there. You'll notice that we did not spend anything this year. That is for the reoccurring of the exit 14 permits that we have to, and then we pay them every other year or so forth. So we just kind of leave that number standing in there. That way we'll always have those funds available to make sure we get those permits paid at the time.
Exit 14 permits?
Wastewater, sorry.
All right. Any further questions? Public comment before we go to a vote? All right, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Again, we are finishing any remaining unapproved budget before we conclude. Top of page 19, Park and Fair Boards, AKA the Ag Park. We've already handled the bottom section of that page. Do we have a motion? I'll make a motion to approve the slightly increased budget amount to $67,000 due to water and sewer increases. Second by Ms. Schulte, let's open up for discussion. Mrs. Jones.
Beth, you know what the offsetting income is, this Ag Park?
I do not, but if you'll give us a second, we can probably back into that.
Okay, thank you.
For the public's knowledge and those of us commissioners who don't go to a lot of Ag Park meetings, did we find a replacement? Who's managing it out there?
Here's one of them over here.
Okay, is that going all right? Cindy, you doing a good job?
They pretty much swapped roles. Benny was a big guy and Jerry was just his unpaid helper. Now Jerry's the main guy and Benny will come to go to see this.
Okay. Thank y'all for figuring that out. Mr. Wilbur.
What is the park fees towards renting the building versus the barn versus like where they have the demolition derby, rodeos and things kind of like that? Or is it,
Okay, I don't have the fees memorized, it's on the online application, but any entity that is coming under one of the sponsored clubs, like it's under Civic Fan Club or Cattlemen's Association or Rotary, they're using the parks for free because those are charter members of the park. Any individual who are asking to use volunteer hall for a birthday party or a livestock barn or a poultry show or anything like that, they're paying an individual fee for that building. But nobody gets the whole park. It could be per day, or I think there's even a half day for each volunteer hall. Yeah. Yeah, here's a man who just ran it.
half day, $125, full day, $250 for just
But as far as, like, the arena.
Yeah.
Like individual, just come up for a rodeo with there, would be a charge for them.
Yes,
What for that?
I have to go back to, it's on the application. But if they're doing it under the sponsorship of a club, they don't pay anything.
And the income as of April is $4,553.86.
So far, you,
So far this year, based on the rents.
how much you said?
$4,553.86. Yes, sir.
But that really wouldn't be an accurate account because of the tractor pull, rodeo, and stuff like that. It brings back into the county. It's one of the points I was trying to make. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's not just the fees we get for the rent, it's the other revenue it creates from tourism. Anything else? Before we have a motion and second. Any public comment? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? That's unanimous. Page 24, please. 20, Forest Service. I know we debated this throughout last year. To remind, we're talking about a total of $2,100 for the Forest Service. I think we looked into the contract we have from the 1950s, and I think the consensus this time last year was it's needed service. Mr. Jones.
Motion approved.
Motion to approve by Mr. Jones. Seconded by Ms. Goolsby. Any public comment on the Forest Service line item of $2,100? Seeing none, any public comment? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. None opposed. Airport, page 21. We did EDC and IDB. No, you're right above it. Let's take up airport, just since we're there, but I think you're right to look at that section right above that. Is there a motion? Motion to approve by Mr. Jones? Or Dr. Lathrop second. Airport budget is $74,100. I'm not seeing an increase from our amended 25 budget. We have talked about the airport some this year. Any comment, questions? Again, we're joint owners of the city. Not seeing any questions. Any public comment or questions? Okay, going to a vote. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? No. Do you want to look right above it now? Is that the chamber and/or South Central?
The chamber is the 16,
Okay.
and then South Central, the leaves.
Okay. So the 16,000 is the Chamber of Commerce. You all may recall, it was more like 26 what we've been contributing for years, 24. But if you also recall, this year we passed a new way to fund that through the hotel motel tax, basically incentivizing them. If they can increase the hotel motel tax by bringing tourism here and increasing occupancy rates in the hotel, then they would benefit. Hotel motel is actually down this year. And I don't have really any more information than that on why, but,
The only other thing I can say to that is when I saw that the hotel motel tax revenue for this year was down, I did reach out to our county audit to see if they were able to see it in other counties. as well, because I was thinking this is a Giles County thing, or this is a regional thing. And according to them, other counties, their local tax revenue is down as well, so it's not a Giles County issue, it's a regional.
Thank you. And for a reminder, why are we paying South Central Development District? They're the ones that help us with all the grants.
Correct.
All right.
We do it, grant administration.
Right. You had a question there too about whether we have a grant writer. This is the primary entity we lean on to help us get grants.
That's correct.
What is it reflected in the budget, the hotel motel tax that went to the chamber?
I'm sorry, say your question again?
You said the chamber was going to pay on hotel motel tax. Is this?
Yes, ma'am, so right,
I'm sorry.
16,085, which that is based upon where I think the hotel motel tax revenue is gonna collect this current fiscal year. That's how the resolution stated. Whatever funds that were received in the prior year, 10% of that would be what they would collect. So based on my estimate, that's what I based the.
Okay, I was, the way I heard it, it was another line item as well, but this is it.
It's just that. So obviously, if we collect higher than what I have budgeted, then we'll need to adjust that accordingly.
Okay.
We have a motion second. I'll make a motion to approve. Mr. Jones, seconds. Thank you. Any further deliberation, comments, questions from the public? Okay, moving to a vote. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? None. Veteran Services. Is there a motion? This needs to be reduced from our amended budget last year. Motion to approve by Mr. Jones, second by Mr. Savage. We have a new Veteran Service Officer. Anything else to be said?
The only thing I would point out is on the amended budget, not mistaken, that's because you're in the training process between Barry and our new person. That's why that was elevated this year, so I don't want anybody to think that there's been a decrease in that salary.
Has there been a 2.63 increase to the salary? All right, any further questions, comments regarding Veteran Services? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? None. Okay. Right below it, page 21, other charges. We did take up animal.
Yeah, first.
We did take up the first line already this morning, dead animal contract service. But basically the remaining items under 58,400.
The remaining items would be, of course, the insurance, and as we say, we don't have hard numbers on that yet, so we just try to take an estimate, and hopes that it does not increase more than what we have budgeted. I think, back to the question that was asked earlier about the trustee commission, if you'll look what was budgeted last year at 270, and you look over what we have estimated for this year, 286, that's because the collection of course, Tony's right behind you, so he can probably answer better than I can, but the percentage of other revenue that's collected, the trustee's office is able to retain those fees and charge a commission, and of course, then those funds are dumped back into the general fund, so it's kind of reflected in both places. But obviously, I need to increase that expenditure because of the, where we're looking to end the year this year.
Motion by Mr. Jones.
Yeah, we talked before, 58,400, except for 312. I'm not done that.
Okay, we have a motion to approve the remainder of that section. Second by Dr. Laker. Further questions? Ms. Jones.
What is premiums
corporate surety.
So that would be the bonds, and as we have officials coming in July, we'll need to make sure we have that budgeted for the bonds of our elected officials. We only see those every 4 years, but we still like to keep those as placeholders where they don't ever get dropped off and forgotten about in the budget.
Are we ourselves as commissioners on it, or is it just the elected department?
I'm pretty sure you guys are covered under that as well. I'm pretty confident, we can find out for sure, but I'm pretty confident that you are.
Yeah, I thought so too.
This was approved that about maybe a year and a half ago, we found out we are.
Any other questions? All right, moving to a vote. Any other public comment, any questions? Ms. Gould? All right, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. Under, same page, underneath, contributions to other agencies, what we haven't taken up is the contracts with government agencies, E911. The IDB line right below it, 10,000, we did handle yesterday with Mr. Reese's. A motion to approve the E911 budget of $194,480. Mr. Jones, second by Ms. Jones. Is that a second?
Yes.
Okay. Discussion? Same as previous year, although there was an increase the previous year from 24. Just more,
Just for clarity, is this where we added the fees to allow us to use the dispatches? What exactly is this?
These are the fees that help keep you on operational like sheriffs.
is that cost sharing 50/50? Sorry.
Whenever other municipalities are involved, I think you are, yeah. So every municipality has a fee, that's also assessed.
Okay. Any other questions about the E911 line? Any public comment? Seeing none, we'll go to the vote. All in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? None. Top of page 22. This whole page has not been addressed, 22, so we'll just take it from the top. Employee benefits, $48,000, $48,598.
Just to recap what that is for, this goes back before my time where there was educational incentives for employees to complete training hours. And so that's what the majority of that is, the top. And then we also have, the life insurance is a benefit the county pays for county employees for a small amount. And then we have what you guys were so gracious to add last year, the retiree health insurance. We had that in there, and then we also have medical and dental services. That is for drug testing employees. And then we have criminal investigation. Now that's where we have fingerprint all employees now, and those are those costs for those.
Do we have a motion? I make a motion to approve. Second by Mr. Jones. This is the employee benefits section 58,600. Any questions, comments? Mr. Wong.
Just on the retiree benefits, maybe we've had one person use that.
Currently, we have one person, I think. Next year, we're expected to have several, but we do not think we will not surpass the $24,000 mark though.
Do we pay for retiree health insurance?
You all got voted to add that in last year as a benefit, to pay a portion of it, $500 a month for, if you have, there's certain criteria for us that they have to have 30 years of service. 30 years of service to be eligible up until they're 65.
That's an excellent benefit.
A benefit
Never happened to this program.
that the school system has been eligible for, and this is also the county law graciously agreed that last year. And it has been very, very huge for retention of employees. Just know that that is something they have to work towards.
Any other comment? All right, employee benefits section, going once, going twice, seeing no comment, we'll go to a vote. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? American Rescue Plan grants, the next several sections are American Rescue Plan grants, 1, 2, 3, grant A. I'm seeing 4 different grant sections.
So they're all zero right now. Again, like as we stated before, we'll do an amendment in July to roll any remaining grant funds back into the budget. But right now, putting those at zero, we have those hard numbers.
Motion.
Most of the remainder of page 22.
Okay, remainder of page 22 is the motion, so that goes beyond the grants. I'll second. It also includes public safety projects with a 0 proposed budget. And transfers out section with all zeros. Beth, can you fill in the blanks just on those remaining 2 sections so that we can wrap it all up in this vote? Yeah. In the previous year, public safety projects was 191,000.
So that would be the safe space grant that is, the ag park. I think it's still ongoing. And for that is the American Rescue Plan Act Grant A. I believe that is the community broadband. I think we maybe have through the library and the chamber. The one before that is, I think that was the food insecurity grant. And then the grant number 2 is the health department grant that we talked about yesterday.
Mr. Jones.
And I might need to clear this. My motion is for the PTA 331, 832, 833, 841, 91, 130, 99, 100.
Yes, sir.
The way I stated it, looks like I'm approving, but because if I go down there to the bottom, I say I'm approving everything. And that's going to come like. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir. And I also second that. Clarify the motion. Voting on the remainder of page 22 is clear, except for the highlighted items at the bottom, which actually shows. Yeah. All right. Any other questions? What is the status of the safe space project at the ag park? That's please.
Okay, that's still in the design process. There was a preliminary design, went up to TEMA and FEMA for approval. They checked that block. Now it's going back to, well, it's in the process of final design.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay, we'll go to any public comment. We'll go to a vote. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? None. That does it, page 22. That says we're done with the county. Are these last 2 pages? That's just showing revenue. Oh, that's highway, sorry. All right. Mr. Carpenter.
Oh, what about the senior citizen?
So,
You know, is that tier 1?
I think it's tier 2, right? If Mr. Sessions has any question about that, it has previously been 101 budget. Well, it's amended in every year, so that's why there's a section for it. But we amended in September under our new budget schedule. We basically 2 years ago set the nonprofits to be taken up aside from library and fire and rescue. The remaining nonprofits to be taken up after this budget process in the fall. We even broke those up by tier 1 and tier 2, non-discretionary and discretionary. No offense to the Senior Citizen Center, they're still in the discretionary category. Although I think we know the implications of not funding it would be detrimental. So no, it's not what we're voting on this month, but we'll get to it before we move off. Okay. Unless someone tells me wrong, I believe we've gotten through all our entire binder. But, no, okay, where next?
Well, I guess they need to approve one as a whole.
Okay, so now that we moved through all of 101, which contains a lot of departments, to approve 101 as a whole. I don't necessarily recall doing this in the past, but we do. Okay. And I know we didn't all vote yes and no unanimously on all of the departments, but at this point, we know that our deficit, acknowledging that the deficit, we didn't move it at all of that, not well, we tried. But we're still at $110,000, $110,572. $110,572.
That should be the exact same number you had when Commissioner gave you your one-on-one budgets.
Okay, I would make a motion to approve 101 as a whole at this point for procedural purposes, seconded by Dr. Lathrop. What questions and discussion do we have on that? My question is, the last item after we finish off this binder is, how are we gonna formally close the deficit? In what way? How do we just say that it's a deficit? Do we say it's coming from 101? We have some options, I think, on how to address it, but before we get to that, I think we have to approve 101 as it is. Mr. Stowe, do you have thoughts on it?
Only to reiterate what I was saying before, I'm glad you're focused on deficit and you'd like to see a zero in that box instead of $110,000, but I want you to compare that to what is not going to get spent in this year's budget. So back to the definition of what we have defined as a balanced budget is that that number in the yellow box is less than the number we can anticipate being passed back to the general fund at the end of the fiscal year. So you're there.
And that number we expect to pass back to general fund was 387?
It was over 300,000. I can't remember exactly.
Okay, and I don't want to say the wrong number, but
And that didn't include salaries.
can we at least put a point on what that number is? Beyond above 300,000? And I'm not trying to split hairs, I'm just trying to figure out where are we? Okay.
Including salaries, yeah, that's because we have a lot of vacancies and special plan to talk about. So it looks like we're gonna have around $1 million, $1,013,659.89. Again, it was from roughly estimated yesterday. And that would be excluding some of the grants and capital things. That would be some, that would include the salaries or benefits, places that we just turn over. So including salaries, the number we gave you yesterday that did not have salaries and benefits, it's $1,013,659.89.
Does that mean that we have $1 million rolling back in after budget?
The way that we projected it, yes, because we've had several vacancies throughout the year and different, so that compounds, like an ambulance and jail, sheriff's department especially, it significantly compounds.
I was thinking 328 or something yesterday.
Yes, that number we gave you did not include the salaries. That was just,
So that's total, what you got, the percentage right there.
yes.
Well, within our budget.
It makes me wonder if we can cover the highway department shortfall with it.
No,
No? Okay.
If I can speak one more time.
Yeah, please.
I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman. Okay, so I appreciate the number of $1 million plus, but hear what Beth is saying, those are positions that we need to fund because next year we hope to build. We don't want to run a county government and take gap positions, right? So we have these compounding positions month over month over month that didn't get filled. That money rolls back into the general fund. I would not use that number to say you got a balanced budget. I would actually back that out to what Beth was giving you yesterday, which was 328 or so. That's the real number that I think you're showing that is going to pass back because Again, when you compare it to next year, let me give you an example. If you hold fast to that $1 million plus number this year, and then next year you fill all those positions and find yourself now at $300,000, you're gonna say, hey, where the heck did that $700,000 go? It went to those positions that need to be budgeted and funded, okay?
So just remember what happened on the jail. Remember, we went for several years where we did not cut the sheriff's positions, but we reduced the budget. I think it was three CO positions. And then it was what, the next couple of years. Remember, we had to add those back mid-year because we were at a point where our sheriff was fully staffed on COs. So that's what we're talking about here. So I don't really think that we've got over inflation, we've had the budgets here, for too many employees. That's not the case. It is just, when you do the budget, I'm talking the same way with teachers. When you do the budget, you take your current level of staffing, where you're at right there, based on their educational level, your service experience, whatever, your medical insurance, all that. You take that and you build your budget. By the time the budget's approved, by the time you start that process, you may have a retirement that we didn't know, resignation, and then you backfill it from a higher paid position to a lower paid position. And you do that throughout the year. Those funds compound when you have a large number of employees at your big office. Now, if they happen in a small office like my office, you're not gonna see that much of an impact. But when you have several number of employees, that's what we're talking about here. But, and so what we do for budgeting is every position that's in this budget, same way on schools, we can back it up with a position, which is a person, and what their salary and their wages are. If we start the budget process and we have a vacancy, which we typically do, I think right now we had some in the insurance department on the jail side, we put like a middle range of salary because Joe has been able to bring in more skilled or not skilled, experienced employees. We might do a mid-range, so they're doing a higher range. So that's just proper budgeting. Like I said, if anybody ever has a question about employees and budgetary, we can show you names to back up every number that we have on the budget. So make sure nobody thinks that there's anything wrong with that process.
Mr. Wilburn, then Mrs. Jones.
But wouldn't it be budgeted this year, this coming year, that they need those employees? It's actually in their budget now. So we still, it looks like we still quite more than 328,000.
Yes, sir. That's why I made the comment yesterday, even though, you know, it goes against our policy. I'm very comfortable with you all approving this budget with $100,000 of expenditures over revenue. Because historically, I know, and I don't want to be right, but I know that we are not going to spend 100% of this budget because we will have turnover. We will have areas of budgetary savings. But like I said yesterday, you have so many budgets inside the budget. So, you know, each one of these categories is a budget within itself. And you cannot strip that budget down to the point that you can barely operate. So you do have to increase it to the point that you can work with it. But each piece, all those funds that are not spent roll into your fund balance. I'm definitely okay with the usage of fund balance because I know we're not going to spend 100% of these funds.
I understand how we got that $1 million, but what I'm saying is, if they needed those people who would be in this budget.
And it is, yes, sir.
So, when we still, within $1 million, or a little less than $1 million, that we can use to put those people back in the position as it seems to be.
So in essence, what's happening this year, you will be growing your fund. Let's go back and talk about that. Let's go back to page 22, this 3 year we talked about yesterday. So with the projections, which will include unspent salaries, which will include the projections of where we think we're gonna end the year. We're still showing a usage of fund balance of $152,514 because that includes all the amendments that you guys have done from July 1 up until the present. So even though we're going to not spend a lot of our budget, it's going to narrow the gap of what we're amending from fund balance, the remount that you all did, the $500,000 for the courthouse, architect AE fees for that. Even though it's coming out of hotel motel type, it's still part of your fund balance. So do you see what I'm saying? So and that's why it's important to keep a good, healthy fund balance, because historically, this county, we're gonna amend from fund balance. We probably all sit here and know, starting in July through June, something's gonna come up. We're gonna amend from fund balance, to do something. So that's why you're having a good, healthy fund balance is important, because even though we're gonna have funds dump in, we're also turning around and pumping them back out for something else.
Well, whatever the difference actually is, I just wonder about the highway shortfall and the fact that they're underpaid in this upcoming year. If there's anything we can do to address that before we send this budget package to the full commission. Mr. Johnson.
Yeah, what I'd like to see done is there's a shortfall. We've got 3 people we did talk about coming back after the October budget. I know the school gave us 4 pennies, 5 pennies, it's 48, 835, and then from our rent raise the maintenance to 732. So that still puts us short of giving them 243,000 over what we had because of maintenance effort. I'd like to see us take back the maintenance effort for get some more pennies. And then because we could definitely use that. They're talking about that $11 million fund balance. We had none. I would like, we've got buildings, we've got to maintain and keep up also. So I would like to at least look at that as helping out the rest of the county.
Beth, do we simply need to approve 101 today or do we need to put a vote on what we're doing as to the 110 shortfall versus the 328 still being collected? I mean, that's a difference of 218.
I think it's just up to the budget committee how you want to proceed. But in order for us to move forward, we need to have the budget needs to be approved. It needs to be approved as is or with funding sources, cuts, something. We need to approve this budget. We go back and if we were to change maintenance of effort, just to recap, if we were to go back and you adjust the $720 some odd thousand for maintenance of effort, then that budget will have to go back to the school board for reapproval. Because they budgeted for that increase.
Before they got it.
Yes, that was the request of the commission. Yes, sir.
Dr. Ledford.
So can we take the 110 out of the current budget and approve this and move on?
Yes, sir, you can.
Then I make that motion.
Okay. The motion is to approve 101, but covering the 110 and some odd change deficit with the 328 still being collected.
Just
Or from fund balance. Is there a way to characterize that differently so we're not dipping into fund balance? How is that not dipping into fund balance?
It's in the fund balance, but I don't have the policy with me, but if I were to read you the definition of a balanced budget, you just defined it because that number, $110,000 is less than what's going to be passed back at the end of this year.
Okay. In other words, under Dr. Ledford's motion that I second, this would be a balanced budget for the county side.
Yeah, and based on the balanced budget policy we just wrote, Beth and I owe you all a letter at the end of these proceedings that are going to tell you just that.
Okay. But on the highway side, the written would be a little different.
Yeah, we'll have to take that into consideration because county general and highway are considered together.
Okay. All right, we have a motion and second, Mr. Johnson.
One would still be, still looking at the end of savings, as I'm checking, like, we've been talking about the last several years.
Personally, I agree, Mr. Jones, because technically, we should be approving a budget that has revenue and expenditures equal out. That's in a perfect world. But I would be not being truthful to you all if I didn't think it would be okay to do it as is. Now, if you were 200,000 plus, 250, 300,000, sometimes, and I would definitely, no, we're crossing that line there. But consider when we put the remounts back in the budget, we put the patrol cars back in the budget where they need to be. We increased some lines that we
know we're going to increase like the autopsies and things like that, I feel like we're in a much better place. I feel like this budget could hold, unless we have something major that comes up that we're unforeseen. I feel like this is a good budget. I'm comfortable with you all approving it as is. Is it the best practice? No. We should try to find ways to make it balanced, but it is workable.
And I agree, we are a lot closer, a lot better than we were this time last year.
Absolutely.
But my point is, we're still 110 off.
And we still need to be mindful that we would only be where we are had we not increased revenue last year and the 5 pennies from the schools.
But when they get 5 million, then they get $750 million on maintenance equipment.
But I just want to remind from where we were last year, I do think that is something to take notice, that the significant tax increase still did not put the county government operating budget where it needed to be. And this is what I'm trying to make sure we don't lose sight of that.
Ms. Curry.
That's exactly what I wanted to say, that I want us to recognize that the reason this process is easier this year is because of the property tax increase. And had the wheel tax passed, this would have been much easier. But I agree with that knowing that I wrote down 394,000 back to the budget yesterday. Taking 110 of that to balance this budget makes the most sense. And we don't need to take any more pennies from the school system. Which is, we've done that in the past with capital projects, taking pennies right at the 189, and we did that a few years ago, and you don't get the pennies back. So we don't need to get into the habit of doing that. But I think using the fund balance for $110,000 is a great idea.
For context, my fear was we would get to the end of all this and have to dip into 189, which again is growing 400,000 unobligated every year with sales tax dollars. I thought we were going to have to dip into what the reserves that we are growing.
It's still an option.
It's still not, but I don't think that anyone is pursuing that. Ms. Jones.
It's very unlikely, statistically, that you'll ever have full employment with the county. So, we're making out on the wrong deal, the 100,000 or so that we say we need to balance the budget. It's there, it's already there, and it would be, by a great deal. So, could we vote on?
Yeah. Are budget committee members ready to vote on this? Is there any further comment or question? Is there any public comment? The motion by Dr. Lathrop, seconded by myself. We voted on that. Let's do a roll call. Dr. Lathrop. Aye. Mr. Jones. Oh. Mr. Jones votes no. Mr. Adams. I imagine that's a no. Did you say no? No. Okay. Mr. Savage.
Yes.
All right. Mrs. Jones. I'll vote aye. Ms. Gould.
Yes.
So that is 5-2, passage of 101. Let's turn to section 128, the red tab. Probation settlement fund, 128. Total expenditures appear to be $27,500.
That's just budgeting the remaining funds. You can see this year we only had a bill for $165. These funds are just remaining, and I guess until we finish with all that, I really don't want to get into that. But I do know that when this is finally behind us, we probably could throw those funds back into the general fund. But for now, I guess until we have a final closure, I feel like we need to still have these funds obligated and set aside.
We have a motion by Mr. Jones, second by Ms. Goolsby. Any discussion on the probation settlement fund 128? Mr. one page. Any public comment? Shelley, seconded. Moving to a vote, any last comments? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? None. Debt service, the next section, 151 in orange. That is account 151.
On this page, you'll see where we do have interest income, and I did plus up that a little, I did, leave that around 300,000 because as we spend down the school bond, but we're also gonna have, well, the courthouse bond interest. So I'm hoping that we're gonna generate some interest there. One thing that you will notice that I did increase was the $600,000 extra sales tax. That's moving from 189 to debt service. I know we talked about that a lot during the budget process, but this is a reflection of that to be able to serve the county bond payment. You also note in there that you have the contributions from the school system for their portion of the bond and interest payment.
That's the 1.07 million.
Yes, sir. And again, we have roughly a fund balance around 1.2 million. Hopefully that's gonna grow a little bit because of the interest, which I think is something good that we talked about originally with the school bond. And we're supposed to tell you about trying to see if we can track the interest separate and try to cost them that separate. So maybe whenever the bonds call, maybe we can use some of those, the interest revenue to be able to offset some of that, the bond at that time.
Make a motion to approve 151. Second by Mr. Jones. Any questions, comments, public comment? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? 171, the final section, it appears. That's the yellow section, beginning, well, page 1 of mine, it says 177. I think there was a, I'm going to pull out 171. Do you want to do these, we need to do these individually, right?
Yes, we were in
177 and 178 have been approved. That's education capital projects 1 and 2. 171, please.
Okay, 171's got a lot of numbers on there, so let me kind of just briefly kind of bring you up to speed of what's going on with this fund. 171 has got a lot of grants flowing through it right now. We have the, I'm gonna try to see if I can remember them all. We have the library grant, the 2.2 million, that's just a pass-through grant that we're not contributing any dollars for, but we're having to administer of those. So we have that. We also have the water through TDEC grant that's flowing through the county.
That's coming, but it hasn't been received.
No, this has been ongoing for a couple of years, very at a slow pace, very frustrating pace on the county end of it. But regardless, we're having to administer all those funds for the utility districts. And we also have as a place where we still have the broadband funds from years ago, for those funds that were set aside for the utilities for the internet. The only one we still have left to pay is Ardmore. So we have that reflected, that 94,273 is what the remaining balance is for Ardmore for their internet service. We also, this is where the bond for the courthouse, those funds were dumped in here. But we have those, of course, I have them budgeted to be fully expended. That's why I make sure we can track those funds and show that. Let's see. I did not put anything in other government projects. That's where we all, last year we had highway equipment, we had building improvements, we had consulting fees, the patrol cars, and an EMA vehicle. So when you put all the grants in and out, we have a projected ending fund balance of 272. The reason why it's a little bit higher than I think we budgeted to end at 230, around 230, is because we did not end up purchasing the OEM vehicle. We were able to get that through another grant source. So that's why it's a little higher than the projection that I gave you last year. So the rest of it, like I said, is just grants flowing in and out, and then the bond.
All right, I make a motion to approve 171. Second by Ms. Wilson. Question, Mr. Jones?
Yeah, this is just a question I want to ask. I think we're in the right place. That's been actually now over 4 years. Finally got paid, right?
No, sir.
Still got one more payment,
No, Tackett's on 189,
189.
so we haven't got that one here.
And I finished, was last year,
Please.
and we stick a radio or anything from this deal. 4 years.
You're not to see an operational radio until all houses are operational.
Anything else? 171. Seeing none, any public comment? All in favor of approving 171, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none. Now to 189.
And 189, you'll notice that we have reduced $600,000 of sales tax. Obviously, that's moved to debt service. So we're looking at $400,000 roughly going into this account. The only budgeted expenditure besides trustee commission would be that final payment of TACN that Mr. Jones just referenced. And that puts us around a projected ending fund balance of around 3.2 million.
Is there a motion on 189? Mr. Jones? I'll second. Any further discussion on 189? It's our capital projects funds. Any questions about that? Public comment? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Mr. Adams is absent during that vote. I don't know that. It was unanimous, but Mr. Adams, just for the record, was not part of that. Still prevails. Unless, Mr. Carpenter, were you sitting in for him on that vote? Yes. Okay, unanimous then. All. Tax rate. Let's turn to the very front to discuss the tax rate. So this should be the very first page in your binder. We're double checking, make sure none of those numbers need updating. I'd just like to thank everybody for sitting through this and your brain power and members of the public who just care about this stuff, whether you're learning to take the role, our roles, take the reins or not. Thank you for your interest in county business. Okay. My note page. Okay, so I think the main items to look at here is at the very top, what 1 cent equates to. I had 97,661. The total at the bottom of the first section, 2.3053 total tax rate. Yep. Total combined tax rate. And finally, the total assessed property value at the collection rate of 99% that we moved into yesterday, on day one. Total assessed property, $186,471,138. I make a motion to approve this page, tax collection rate by fund. Second by Dr. Latham. Discussion. Got anything you'd like us to just make sure we're all on the same page here?
Just one last reflection, that is removing 5 pennies from the school system and placing those into the general fund.
Mr. Wilbur?
I don't know if that was done the first day or the second day, when you changed the collection rate. It was also discussed about the penny when Tommy was here, and, he said it was very conservative on what he set the penny at. Okay, and last year, where he set the penny at, where did it actually land?
So that's a great question, and I think we did touch on that a little bit. As of May 19th, Mr. Reisner gave me an update that we had exceeded our budgetary amount. So the projection was very conservative, and the collections have been great. Tony, do you have anything you want to add to that? Because I know since you said it's updated, even since you've given me the number.
Yeah, we're up all the way like out of 22,000,008. The tax aggregate as of yesterday was 22,804,000 something dollars. We collected 21,000,000 something. We got to have 925 to collect. So we're looking very good on collection. Of course, 24, which y'all see, and I give you an update in June, we only like 80 something, about $80,000 left. So it was, I did about 19, for tax rate. So we're glad to play up. It'll be plus 99%.
I can't remember what the penny was worth last year.
94,000.
And what would it actually turn out to be worth?
And I don't have that number, because I just have the budgetary, how we start with it. That doesn't really filter back, but that.
I don't have that number. That would be, but you gotta remember, when he gives the assessment value, it always changes. Tax aggregate change value, it flows, so it's changed. When I give you this number, I was almost it's changed because the people pay it. So we have what we call pickups and stuff. Like if we have to pick up stuff, somebody wouldn't assess right or whatever, we also have one on taxes. So we do that daily. So like when somebody does, like when they split up property, they go out the ring belt, we pick it up and pay rollback taxes for 4 years. So that's increased money for the county. So that comes in, that fluctuates daily. It could be, 50,000, it could have a million, it just depends on how much they use. So the more sales, the more pick it up, we're selling off farmland, rollback comes in. Then we have a few tax releases for something wrong, so they move, like I got my house, they move house by the wrong property. So obviously that comes off that property. So we got more house burn, or something like that. We have different stuff. That's the reason why Tommy does estimate. It's just an estimate. So I don't know what the 50 would have been, because he don't go back to 350 like he could. He just gives a better estimate at that time.
That's what I was getting at, historically, you said it's only not made it for 1 year.
Yes, that's correct.
What I was getting at, if you did increase a little bit more for your revenue side, where it's almost more like the same, but it make your revenue look better. See what I'm saying?
Exactly.
That goes. What it is, regardless of, on the front end of it, it would help if it was a little bit better, closer judged, I guess you would say.
Absolutely, and that's why right before, yesterday, I called Tony and I called Tommy, and I said, hey, one last opportunity to relook at some numbers, and I asked Tommy, I said, are you able to see anything else that you think might be helpful? And he was gonna run the numbers, and he didn't feel comfortable with releasing anymore because he just worked away the number. I think since the last conversation, we had lost something, we were still gonna be okay, but he didn't feel comfortable making that adjustment, and obviously I would never push somebody to push them to the point that they feel uncomfortable making an estimate, because he obviously has to be responsible for that number and hold to it. But again, and that's what goes back to this whole process. This is nothing more than a budget document, and it is a best guess with the information that you have. And ultimately, we hope all of our revenues come in more than we expect, and we hope all of our expenditures come in less. And basically on the county general, it's always a moving target. One year we may think we may budget it correctly, and the next year it's something on top. Hotel local tax, I would have never thought that with us being, is not as touristy as you will up in some counties, that we would have had a loss in revenue for hotel motor tax, but this year it's tanked a little bit. Next year it may be more than, it's just, it's hard to get 100% right on everything, but the best thing to do is just use your best judgment and the resources you have and just do the best that you can with it.
Mr. Jones?
Yeah, we're budgeting, doing our numbers 22.5, 20%, 22.8.
We collected, right now, we collected 21,800,000 something. So, we got 900,000. When we get it all collected, we'll hit that number. But not to defend, Tommy does his job, I do my job. But Tommy gives the best estimate. He don't want to come back. He don't want to figure or try to get it very, very close. And you don't hit it, and all y'all are saying, why do you make the budget?
So it's looking like we'll be in better shape than what we think, right?
Yes.
But historically, we've always been better than, when it's
Yeah.
1 year.
Yeah.
But this is what I'm thinking.
But you can always have the tax, like Tommy said yesterday, plant close or something, then the revenue is gonna drop. We can't collect no taxes or whatever. The economy tanks or whatever, people can't pay their taxes. That's gonna show the line. Tommy's trying to make sure that we have a buffer that we can get to do that, so.
At the end of the year, it's going to be 1 year.
Right.
That's right.
I give you the numbers, what's collected, I see what's actually collected, I give you the numbers. That's correct.
We're just like two revenues this year that we budgeted. I budgeted $1 million on interest income. We didn't hit it. We hit more towards 820. Also on patient charge, we budgeted 2.6. We ended up being around 2.4. We didn't hit it. So when you have other revenues that you hope can offset areas that you don't meet your mark. And so that's what I'm saying. It's all going to be moving part, and none of it's going to be held to any of what it's going to be. It's just the best guess is all it is.
Beth, these numbers that we just approved, and we haven't started on our nonprofits, and it's usually all of that. Where, do you think we have enough left over in there for the nonprofits? I'm not putting you on the spot, I'm just saying, we still got.
You really are, but I don't want to answer your question.
No.
Sure, but I do think, as you made a good point, that these nonprofits every year are funded. So really they are becoming a reoccurring expenditure. And at some point, that needs to be addressed.
Mr. Stowe, did you have something? We were talking about collection rates.
Only this, thanks, Evan. Y'all have a great discussion. What I want to help you all avoid both this year and in the future is what I would call a budgeting gimmick. And I know you want to maximize your revenue, but I also want to make sure you ensure you have a cushion for, COVID-19 hit, and I think what you all had to do was increase your collection rate to try to help out. I know we did that last year to try to minimize the tax increase. We went from, I think, 97.5 to 98.5. Now we're up to 99. See your cushion tightening. Okay, the next move you might have is to go to 100%. Then your cushion is gone. So I would not look to that to increase your revenue as your first go-to option. See what I'm saying? I think all the people that Beth and Tony and Tommy, they're all trying to do their job on behalf of you all to make budgeting as accurate as possible.
Thank you. I don't know that we have anything further. Is there any additional business that needs to be taken up today before we conclude here? There is a motion. Yeah, all right, we're still on tax rate. Still on page 1. I know there was a motion second. I'm pretty sure I was part of that motion. At this point, it all sort of blurred together. Lois, do we have a motion and second on this? Okay. Any further question, comment before we approve the tax rate? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? That's unanimous.
Good job.
All right, thanks, everybody. Motion to adjourn. Any announcements?
Yes. I've had a couple of people ask me the past couple of days about the water study that the state appropriated funds for us.
Clay Doggett said we will hear from somebody at TDEC in June, and they'll either be contacting me or Brown. And Clay's hopeful to give me that contact first, like, let me know who that's gonna be in advance. But, so once we have more information, we'll call a water lines meeting.
Thank you. Mr. Arnold?
I just say currently we have no meetings scheduled for June. If any chairman needs to schedule a meeting, just let me know, but currently we are open to full board.
Reminder of when full court is? I'd have to look down. June 25th. That is where the main item will be to approve this budget.
Thursday.
Note that it's on a Thursday. Why is that?
So we can have the last.
Juneteenth.
Last Thursday. No, if it is as much time as possible, no, we have this budget.
For all the publications.
One last thing too, I just want to make sure, especially people from the public, the reason why we have to wrap up our budget so soon, the first week in June, is because we're under the Financial Management Act of 1981, and therefore we have to have the budget completed and publicized in the newspaper for at least 10 days prior to the vote, and also where we have to have a public hearing. So in order for us to all meet those deadlines, we have to have the budget, it has to be wrapped up by next Thursday in order to meet that deadline, to have the budget approved the last Thursday in June. But just for anybody who was wondering if they felt like this was too soon, that you kind of know that history of what we have to do what we do.
Do we know when the budget hearing is and where and what time?
Some budget down there.
Now, we usually do it on that Tuesday before, we have it set in there. Now that this is complete, then Graham and I will get together and get all that sorted in the calendar. And then we'll have the budget on the website, we'll get that going, and nothing changed, so everybody's budget should be good, right? Yeah, so unless anybody wants a budget document that doesn't have draft on it, then come by and see us. If not, we'll leave it as is, and then we'll take the draft off, of course, for the website and get that budget up.
I'm gonna keep draft on the website until it's passed before commission.
Well, that's true, yes. That's a good point, Graham, thank you.
Anything else?
One thing,
Yes, sir.
okay, Aaron knows this, Matt Pavelski knows this, and now Evan knows this. The hardest job on this commission is budget chair. And Evan did a great job this year. I want you to know how learning your job and learning the budget is hard enough as it is. Evan was up in Beth's office and hanging out with me, and we were texting several times a day. Over this last month, Evan's done a great job. Round of applause for Evan. You deserve it.
I'll tell you this,